just want to be Pete, as long as I beat Pete.
Right. Okay, hello everyone and welcome to our city council workshop meeting. It is 10:02 and I call this meeting to order. And if we can have the record reflect that we do have quorum. And then we'll move on to our invocation and pledge of allegiance. And I'll have Father Angel Montano, right? Montano, I'm so sorry, from St. Joseph Catholic Church. Welcome to lead us in our invocation. And would you lead us in our pledge of allegiance? Sure.
Heavenly Father, our guide and our creator, without you, we can do nothing. We ask your help. Come and send your Holy Spirit to lead this meeting, that we may make the best decision and choices for our community. We are going to follow your ways, and we realize you are the ruler of the world, and we thank you for giving us this call to serve. We ask you your help in the name of Jesus Christ, our Lord.
Amen. Thank you, Father.
Thank you, Father.
Please put your right hand over your heart and follow me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next agenda item is public comments. I don't have any before me, but I will turn to our council for any announcements or public comments. Mr. Garza?
No announcements. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody here, everybody watching over the internet. And if the community would please give a collective prayer for us to watch over us as we go over the budget here. This is our probably where we prove ourselves to the community by being the stewards of their money. The economy is in trouble. Inflation is going high. There was over $2 trillion lost in the stock market in one day. So we have to be careful with every dollar that we have. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
Pretty much the same. Keep us all in prayer, and thank you to our finance department and staff and everybody, departments that came together to put this magical book together for us to review, and we'll see where we go from there, and we'll get it done, and just keep us in prayer.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to welcome everybody to today's meeting.
Yeah, same thing. I want to welcome everybody and thank you all for y'all's efforts and hard work putting this together. And we'll do the best to hammer it out and make some good outcomes. Thank you.
Well, I want to just thank everyone for their hard work. I know opened this book and was like, wow. A lot of hard work went into it. So thank y'all for what y'all have done. Today's my eldest son, well, my second oldest son's birthday, so happy birthday to my baby.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
So, we'll start with our
What's your
budget
son's
workshop. Johnny.
Birthday, Johnny.
He's gonna be embarrassed. He's gonna say, Mom, why'd you do that?
Bring him up here next time.
Yeah, I'll take a picture with him.
Okay, Mr. Esparza?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
I didn't open it up, though. I'm so sorry.
Oh, yeah.
I got carried away. Okay, agenda item number 4, individual consideration, 4.1. Review and discussion of the 2023-2024 fiscal year revised City of Alice budget and 2024 to 2025 fiscal year proposed City of Alice budget. Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Council. So I do want to thank our staff also, and all our departments and department heads and employees that work together to come up with this budget. It does take a long time. We started in April, and there's a lot of meetings that go back and forth, and a lot of working through lunches, sometimes staying late to get things done. And so it does take a while, and the budgets change from year to year. Priorities change. We're here to figure out what your priorities are, and make changes to this budget as you guys see fit. And so what we want to do today, I think we have 3, potentially 4 scheduled budget workshops. And the general fund, of course, is the largest fund with a lot of the departments: police, fire, garage, parks, grants, civil service, and library, human resources, IT. So figured that today we would go through the general fund, and that'd be a good stopping point. And then all the other funds combined could be at the next budget meeting: utility, airport, golf course, hotel occupancy, multi-use debt service, and all those. And after, on the third budget meeting, we can go over the fee structure, fines and fees, and then recap any of the of these funds that we need to, and look at them. And then after that, if we have a fourth meeting, we can also do the same thing and kind of go through them. So what we'd like to do is, we have finance here. We can start on page 7, and Vanessa will go over some of the numbers on page 7. Then we'll get straight into that's a summary of the general fund. Then we'll go straight into each department and go from there.
Okay, thank you. Hello.
So on page 7, this is the revenue, and we just wanted to touch on the big ones. So the sales tax, we did budget at $540,000 a month. For the property taxes, we just mirrored last year's, which is like a no new revenue rate. We're not sure what it will be. We sent the paperwork to the appraisal district, so we're just waiting on them to get numbers from them. Another item we wanted to bring to your attention was the American Rescue Plan, the $350,000. So we do plan on using a lot of the ARP money, and some of this will be to reimburse like the streets department for their labor, things like that, or any material, anything like that.
I hate to say this, but I really can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
That's on, right?
Yes,
Yes.
it's on.
Oh, there you go.
Okay, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Okay, council, any questions on that first page?
Yeah, and just to
Under-
reiterate, we did lower the sales tax projections this year. It slowed down a little bit, and so we did lower that to $540 a month. And on the estimate, I think we used what percent of collection?
95.
95%. We'd gone as high as 98 before even. You usually collect more than 100% because there's back taxes that get paid, penalties and interest, so the number can be as high as, I think the average was like 102% collection. But we backed it down this year to be more conservative on those numbers.
Mr. Ventura? Mr. Molina?
No, I'm good.
I'm okay right now, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
That was on sales taxes or property taxes?
Both. We lowered projections on both.
And not that it applies to us right now, but I'm curious, how much of this sales taxes did the county take?
Well, as a whole, if you look at, we collect about $6 million in sales tax, and they collect another 0.5%, I think. I believe they collect about $2 million in sales tax within the city limits. Not to mention outside also they collect, but within the city limits, they have somehow they did get that 0.5% a long time ago. And so, yeah, that's a pretty big number.
Thank you. That's it.
Like I said, I was really pleased when I opened up. I mean, I know that's hard, that's not easy to budget based on that. But I thank y'all, because I think it's gonna help moving forward. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're fine.
Okay, next we'll go to page 11. This is the city council's budget. One thing we did do was we removed the travel. This was a citywide thing, though. We didn't take away all travel from all departments. We did leave some travel for some departments if a license or certificate is required for that position. So you may notice that in some of the departments where their travel is lower, but it was, we did leave some for for license or certification training.
We looked at it like essential and non-essential, so anything essential that's required for licensing is still included, but any non-essential travel, we removed from every department.
Council, any questions on that?
I want to look at travel on each department as it comes up.
No problem. Yes, no problem.
Thank you.
Mr. Garcia? I know, I thought we were gonna go page by page, so, I had a couple of questions on the other pages. Just wanted to ask you on the response billing, it went to 25,000. I just wanted to know, what is that for?
That's the one that you approved, we brought to you this past year where we were gonna work with an outside vendor. Desiree actually has it out for bid right now, and it's with Patrick. So when we are called out for, let's say, an accident outside the city limits and we have to respond to that, we were able to bill the insurance to get some of that
Okay.
expense paid back. And so we were hoping to have it for this fiscal year, but it's been a process trying to get that bidded out, and we hope to have, like I mentioned, when are bids due?
Bids are due August 29th.
So we hope to have that in place at the beginning of the fiscal year.
Okay, okay.
So with this, excuse me, Mayor, with this billing fund, this is, what are our plans with it? I mean, is it going back into the fire department?
It's just to really help the general fund. The general fund covers majority or all of the fire department, so it's really just to help pay for
Offset.
everything.
The general fund helps the fire department do what? I mean, I don't know.
Well, because the
The
fire department is part of the
in
general fund, so basically their whole budget is from the general fund.
Yeah, but it's not line itemed in the
Right.
fire department, if that's what you're asking. It's not line itemed back in as revenue on the, or.
No, it's not.
Yeah, not in the fire department's budget, but it's just revenue to the general fund.
So why can't we put it in the fire department line item so that they can use it for fire equipment, fire things, and put it in their budget?
And we can.
I mean,
We can
dedicate
line
it to
item
that.
I mean, it's what it directly relates to, so.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, that way that they know how much money they have to work with, and we don't accidentally spend it on another department or something like that.
And
I like
maybe
that idea.
keep better track of, I mean, well, yeah, okay. That's pretty much what I was thinking.
How was that structured again? It was to offset,
Basically offset some of their costs for making out these calls going out. So, I mean,
Okay.
we get what Councilwoman Bowen's
Okay.
saying.
Now, I'm curious, on those calls that they're going out on the county's supposed to be reimbursing us also, right?
No, so, first on the first part, so that's just not outside the city limits. That's everywhere, but we are treating our taxpayers or citizens differently on that, correct, Patrick?
So, no, the RFP is for billing outside the city limits.
Outside, okay.
We don't have an ordinance right now that allows us to bill inside the city limits.
That's what I
So
thought.
Our plan is, we're going to come back to you and ask for an
Okay.
ordinance to allow us inside the city limits as well. We're just going through the steps right now to get a company to help us with that. So that's what that RFP is out there right now for. To answer your question, this really doesn't have, this is billing the insurance company or the individual directly. And there's different levels. Once we get more into the, how exactly that's gonna play out with whatever company is, wins that bid, we'll work out the different levels of what happens. At what point does it go to collections, or does it go to, or do we stop it and not send it to collections? There's a bunch of policy things that need to be outlined before we can move forward with it. So we're working through that right now, but this is something separate from what the county is doing. Now, your question was, is the county supposed to be reimbursing us? I don't think we have an agreement with the county, and I know the city manager, finance director, or been talking with the judge. Where they're at on I don't know yet, but I know that there are some talks that have happened to try to kind of help get some resolution to some of that.
And that'll come up also when we get to the fire on there, but yeah, we do, what you're talking about is our response outside the city limits. As a primary response. Patrick, you want,
So-
it's open, so mutual aid and primary response.
Right, there's a difference between the two. So you're familiar with us going, I'll use Orange Grove. If Orange Grove has a big fire, we'll send guys to go help them, right? And we're probably one of the most utilized departments in the county and really in the region. Really, aside from Corpus, Kingsville, Portland, there are no other real career departments. They're volunteer departments, which means their training levels they're trained firefighters, but they're not trained to the level that our firefighters are trained at. So our guys have a lot of specialty training. So there's times where we're going to have a big fire where they may need some extra help, some extra guidance, and we're sending our staff over there to go help with it. It's not just our equipment; it's our staff as well. So we'll do that, and that's one type. That's what we call mutual aid. They'll call us in, we'll send a truck, we'll send some crews out. Sometimes there's been times where I've just sent just a captain or a lieutenant just to go help them run that incident for them, or go help them, give them some, maybe it's a hazmat spill, or it's something where my guy has a special knowledge on something. Maybe I have guys that are specially trained in swift water, so sometimes they'll get sent out just to go help with a specific event like that. I know we've gone down to Brooks County to go help them with some flooding issues and some swift water issues. So that's a mutual aid. That we don't bill those other departments for that, because when we need help, we really need the staffing and the equipment, because at some point we get fires where they're so big that we need more trucks, more staff that we don't already have within ourselves. So it's kind of you help us when we need help, we'll help you when you need help. Now that's mutual aid. The other type of service that we're talking about is what we call a primary response area. So the county is broken up into different response areas, and so every department has their response area that they're responsible for. And so we have ours. Ours extends well outside of our city limits, and that's something that's we were sitting down talking. Was it last week, Mike? We were trying to figure out where those boundaries came through, where how they were determined. That was before our time. We really don't know. That's just the map that it's always been. And so there's areas in the county that are outside of our city limits, but are still in the Alice Fire Department's primary response area. And so you got to remember, our department goes back to before there was even a city. At some point, when the city became a city, the city absorbed the fire department. But the fire department's been around since 1904. We weren't a city until the 40s, right? Something like that. So we might have already had that response area, but the city at some point absorbed the fire department, and that came with it. And so where that happened, how that happened, we've done a little bit of research, but we've talked about it. We don't know how that's happened. But the fact of the matter is, right now we have areas that are outside the city limits that we respond to, and we're the only department that responds there, unless it's something major where we call in for help, a mutual aid type call. And those are the areas that we don't really receive any kind of funding for, because we don't tax those areas, right? Because it's out in the county. The county taxes those areas, and so they receive the taxing for that, but we're providing the services.
And so last week, the mayor and Mayor Pro Tem and myself and Gabriel and Vanessa and Desiree went to the county to visit with them on several issues that affect the budget, ours and theirs, and the fire was one of them. Trying to address the issue of we're not going to turn that off, because there's areas that need primary response, but there's the city of Alice taxpayers shouldn't be funding anything outside the city limits, and so we gave them some numbers, and we're trying to work through that with them to see how we'll get reimbursed for that. And to give you an idea, I mean, in 2023, it was $600,000. About 20% of our fires, roughly, the last couple of years have been outside the city limits. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that equates, you put that onto the budget.
It's an average. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a little less, but
yeah,
on average about 20%. If we have a real busy fire season, wildfire season, we're going to have a lot of wildfires out in the county. Mm-hmm. It's just.
So we're working with them on addressing that inequity there, and also we did meet about the airport. The airport's going to come at our next meeting. That's a separate fund, and they own it jointly with us. And while we do cost share on some of the ramp grants and NPE, the operating has been sporadic on getting reimbursed for the operating expenses on that. And of course the levy is owned by the county also, and they maintain outside the city limits. We maintain inside. I think there was an old agreement that said we would maintain the inside, but there's old agreements for the library. They should be covering 45% of the expenses, and that hadn't happened. And there's old agreements out there that need to get looked at. So we're in the process of working through those, but we did have a good meeting with Commissioner Ventura Garcia and the judge, and also the county attorney on visiting again during their budget. Their fiscal year starts January 1, and so we have a little bit of time to get in front of them again to work on some of these issues.
Thank you. The only other thing that I had a question on, I wanted to ask you is on the interest income. I know that we kind of estimated
decrease?
very conservative. Is that?
Well,
you feel
the
that?
reason being is because of a lot of the projects that we've had going on, unfortunately, I don't want to say unfortunately, but we've had to front, like the text dot, the contract, the way that was
Oh.
done is we had to pay it up front, then we get reimbursed. So in doing so, we lose that interest. Our
Okay.
cash is being spent. It's not sitting in the bank, so.
I gotcha.
That's where
Okay.
that decrease comes from.
Okay. All right. That was pretty much it, sorry.
Oh,
Okay.
no, you're fine. So we're okay to go back to the
Yes.
expenses account?
Okay. Next, we have the city clerk department. Let me see. Their total budget is 230,142. There was a slight increase from this 2024's budget to 2025's budget, but that's because of next year there will be an election, so we did put an extra 25,000 to cover the costs for that.
Okay. Council, any questions in reference to our city clerk department? Mr. Beltran?
What was the amount that you put in for the election?
25,000.
Okay. I'm good.
Mr. Money?
I'm good, thank you.
Mrs. Bell?
No, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, next we have administration. This one, there was a decrease in this department, and that was due to the removal of the chief administrative officer position.
Okay.
And how much was that decrease?
About 75.
75 roughly. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir.
So last year's budget was 299,000, and this year it went to 194,000.
Council, any questions in reference to the department? Mr.
Good.
Okay, Mr. Molina?
I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Bell?
No, I'm fine. Thank you.
Mr. Garza?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, next we have the general service department. And for proposed, we are proposing 819,804. This department takes care of all the repairs, things like that for City Hall. We do have 2 employees in this department. What else is in here? This takes care of the insurance for general fund, so you do see some big payments in here on page 18. This is also the sales tax repayment.
Yeah, the official administrative of 194,000, that's a sales tax repayment, which we have one more after this year. Next year's budget will show that, and then we'll be clear of that sales tax
Good.
adjustment.
Mr. Beltran?
I'm good.
Mr. Molina?
I'm good.
Mrs. Bell?
Just real quick, I noticed we took off levy maintenance. Is that right? No, we always had it on. Never mind. Total budget. We're good. I'm okay. Thank you.
Mr. Garza? Okay. The only question I have is the bank charges. Is there anything we can do with that, or?
I believe we
That's
are
something we
looking
are working into. That's
Yeah.
something Desiree's doing.
Yes.
We're discussing with several different vendors, and we'll probably put something out for submittal of bids.
Yeah, the bank charges, I saw the phones throughout,
Mhm.
the phones and, the leases, but we've always discussed the
Right.
leases over and over, but,
Just on the leases and cooperages, so December, there's several that are coming off, And we're doing an inventory on what we have right now to try to change a few of the leases. I think the one that is probably a very technical one is the one that our city clerk and deputy city clerk use. Has a lot of features. That's probably, if we have to look at something we should be leasing, it probably should be that one. The other one could change to either keeping after the lease and servicing them as they go. And also, we may have we probably don't need all the ones we need right now. And so that's been something over time that we've had different leases with different companies. So we may have had an extra one here trying to get rid of that one. And so we're making sense of it now and organizing it a lot better this year. So that'll change come December.
Okay. Great, thank you.
And another general item, just so we know, on the, sorry about that. Just on the electrical charges, our electricity utilities.
Yes.
We've been with TCAP for a long time, but we're gonna see if there's, what else is out there on the market. So that's something else that Desiree working on also, to try to see if we can lower the costs on some of our, on our electrical costs.
Just a real quick question, like, what are those bank charges?
It's mainly the credit card
The
fees.
credit card fees, whenever, say at municipal court and a customer uses their credit card, it's a fee that we get. Or the golf course
Different
at
one.
municipal court, basically
Any credit card
any credit
charge.
card.
Okay.
We're absorbing that. We've also talked about, I mean, the customer is typically paying those fees. A lot of places are attacking a credit card fee on top. And so we're looking at, actually, we've been looking at that for a while, trying to look at the different vendors on credit card processing also to see if we can make a change on the absorption of those fees.
Cash only.
Cash.
Hardly anyone carries cash anymore. It's hard.
Carry cash all the time.
That's good.
It's like when we pay our water, there's a fee when we pay it online.
Right, the $1.25.
Yeah, so it's on the consumer.
Thank you.
Next, we have civil service. For proposed, we budgeted 7,917. You'll notice a decrease. It's for the legal proceedings. We will have collective bargaining done, I believe, this year by September. So we shouldn't really have any legal fees for next year.
Any questions, council, in reference to that?
We're good.
So also on here, it's actually gonna be more than 7,900. The salaries and wages, there's a, and I'm not sure how we forgot it on there, but there's also another 3,000 or 6,000 that's tied to that, because we have two people working on that, on civil service.
I was just.
HR and deputy city clerk, and our city clerk, I mean. And so, we need to correct that. We'll correct that. I think it's gonna be in another 6,000 salaries. Is
Okay.
what we have, it just didn't show up here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So another 6 on top of the 3.
on top of the three,
Yeah.
yeah. And so
That's normally what
what
we,
we try to do is, instead of hiring a full-time person it is a lot of work. I see it a lot. Instead of having a full-time person, we add those additional duties, and our people try to get it done within the course of the day. And so, we do that with emergency management. We do that with civil service. Instead of having, a full-time person there, our staff does well absorbing those duties. And we pay them a little bit for it.
good, okay.
What's the promotional exempts?
So they've gotten really expensive. It's like $2,700 to order tests for entry level. Actually, for promotional, we just paid $4,000 for 8 people that tested. It's gotten really expensive.
Yeah, civil service is real technical on promotions and testings, and so, there's a cost to the civil service and a cost of the collective bargaining.
Well, what is the promotional?
Like maybe to a sergeant or a
Yeah.
lieutenant or,
When there's a vacancy, when somebody leaves, then they get to test, somebody that's been in a position for 2 years, they get to test for the higher up in a range.
Okay.
And it costs money to buy the tests.
All right.
Yeah, the civil service section of the local government code, you know, when that was voted in, I mean, it takes the HR process of promotions and all that out of management and says, well, let's follow what local government code says. So there's a process for testing and also process for additional points for different, you know, longevity and things of that sort. And those are also negotiated, part of it during the collective bargaining process on how they want to see it happen as well. So it kind of, it brings a whole new level of, I guess, red tape into it. And so involves a lot of the people. And so, yeah, you know, if we didn't have civil service or collective bargaining, like this wouldn't even be in here.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay.
Next, we have emergency management. The proposed budget for this department is $46,186. This includes salaries for a few employees. We do put in a little bit of money for operations in case there is a disaster. We have a little bit of money in there. The big one is the electricity. That one is for the electricity for the sirens. I believe there's 7 sirens.
Golly,
And-
that's how much we pay for the electricity of those? That's expensive.
Patrick?
Is that within being used?
Well,
If we have to turn the sirens on, does it cost more?
the sirens, so we have 15,000, we were talking about this last week from finance. So the electricity, that's for all the sirens?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I know we have the sirens. I don't know where the electricity.
Where's the meter? Or,
It is.
Yeah,
all of
it's all,
Okay, so, but that's all the ones throughout the county?
correct, because I think we manage all.
Are they on different meters, or how do we know which?
yeah.
They're metered
Show 'em.
differently, yeah,
So
I
then-
can pull up a bill real quick.
So you should be able to break out which ones are county,
Yeah.
and which ones are city, right?
Yeah, I think
If
we're,
they have an address, it'd be easier, yes.
I think we're absorbing that cost as well.
Why is it so high, 15? That averages to what? Because we have how many altogether?
We have, there's a total of 8, 6 of them are in the city, 2 of them are in the county.
Total of 8. What does that average out to?
Or is it 9?
A month.
Let me, hold on, I can show it to you right now.
What does that average out to a month?
So
more or less?
also,
Divided by 8 is what?
1,875.
Oh.
161 of it's
18.
8 of them.
I'm sorry?
161 of it's 8 of them. But we were thinking it was 7.
But this is based on actual, what we've trend, as far as electricity, that's what we've been billed for.
Correct.
It'd be like 1875 per.
And we negotiate
And the-
that contract?
on the
That service,
electricity?
yeah.
It's just
Is
service.
it
Is that for
so-
the
It's just
year?
electricity.
It's
Well,
part of
but
our
I'm
provider,
saying
yeah.
The provider, right?
Yeah, well, we have, I mean, that's one we're looking at. We're with TCAP right now, and so
Right,
they
right.
assign, there's a lot of municipalities are in this one.
Been paying it.
3,700.
Still, that's a lot.
It's 2 in the county, 6 in the city, 2 in the county.
That's for the year, right?
Yeah, that's for the year.
Yes, yes.
Yes, for the year. Just,
And
It's like-
it sounds like a stupid question, but do we get charged more when the sirens are running? Because it's actually using electricity?
And they have to be tested regardless, I mean, so many
Oh, yeah, but
times a year.
it just, I can't imagine.
They don't get, they don't
I-
operate very often.
I was gonna say, I can't imagine
It's
that.
just a standard equipment.
No, that's what I would assume. It's probably a standard.
Yeah. But we did have some repairs that, last
Right.
revised budget of $18,000.
Well,
that we-
All
just
8
if
of
we
them?
can look into
No,
that.
we will. It's part of the whole electricity TCAP and everything.
Okay.
And of course, getting the county to take their share.
Any other questions in reference to this, Mr. Beltran?
So just for clarity, so we have the emergency coordinator and the assistant. Who are those roles? Who is that?
So the emergency management coordinator is Patrick.
Okay.
And we have two emergency management administrative assistants, Melissa in risk management and Renee in human resources, and they split duties on, for that role. And so the emergency management coordinator also is an appointed position that the mayor chooses as the emergency management director, can choose the emergency management coordinator. And so that's been Patrick for a while.
Okay. Are these like stipends or what?
Yeah, these are
Yes,
stipends.
yeah.
Okay, I'm good.
Mr. Beltran?
That's fine, yeah.
Mrs. Shaw?
No, I'm okay, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
I'm good, thank you.
I just have one question on, have we defined the roles and duties for the emergency management?
We did come up with the job description for each one, and we're still kind of working through the side duty.
Is that something you kind of already have fairly well defined on how to
So
make sure that we,
the trouble with that is the training. They're both, and no fault of their own, they don't have the training they need for that specific position. And so it's kind of hard for me to assign things to them if they don't have that training to be able to know what to do.
there are modules that are not of any cost, correct?
There
Through
are
TEAM,
some, and
through,
they've worked through a couple of those.
TEDM.
And then there is some work that they can do that they don't really need a lot of training to do. So I know Melissa's been helping me tremendously with that part, and that's one of the things that she's working on is the training schedule, not just for them two, but for the whole city, because every employee needs to have some emergency management training. Yeah, we're working through those challenges. Though.
And I know you've implemented the certs too that should hopefully educate our citizens and help offset and that kind of
Yes,
stuff.
we do
Okay.
have a cert program.
Okay.
So
All
what was
right,
the
thank
question you
you.
asked, Mary? What was the question you asked? The
Well, on when you created the two positions and it was approved, I was just wondering about the roles and duties. I never saw an official job description, so I was just kind of wanting to know what that entailed and what it looked like.
So how much would additional training for them to be, with those roles and duties? How much do you think that would cost to get that done?
It just depends on how fast you want them trained. It's something that even myself I'm still learning and going, and there's still courses that I need to attend, but I can't do it all in 1 year. It takes time.
There's always new things coming up, but I think for right now, because of the, what we're doing and trying to, we've been very conservative. I think if we can look into those that are free to train them and give them the basics, at least to have that knowledge, to give you great support, because you do a lot, you carry a lot of hats, and so appreciate it.
just trying to understand. So you took a position without having a job description, or
No, we have a job description.
Okay.
It's the assigning them the duties is the part that we're trying to work through.
okay, just clarity.
Anything else?
You know what you're doing?
Do we,
What is
well,
it that you do?
I'm gonna, since you mentioned that, I'm gonna tell you this last time when we were really close and, I don't know, I'm going off a little bit, but I was very proud of the coordination that happened, the collaboration that happened. I felt so confident and secure with our citizens, with what we had in place. And thank you for both of y'all, because y'all have talked to a lot of people and coordinated where we have people that are staging within our city limits with here, which felt really good. We had the boats, we had the firefighters, we had the Forest Service that were here. So I really appreciate those relationships. Thank you, because it was good. It felt good. Okay, sorry. Any other questions? Okay. All right. Thank you.
Next, we have finance. Nothing really here. One of the big payments we do pay is the appraisal district. That's for the quarterly collection and appraisal fees. We pay the software Encode out of our department as well. But that's about it.
Any questions in reference to this department, council? Mr. Garza?
You spoke about the software and maintenance hike. Is that, I'm sorry, but I didn't hear everything you were
I'm
saying,
sorry.
honestly. The software and maintenance agreement hike, you were talking about that just right now, or?
Well, the software maintenance, our annual payment,
Because it did jump, but
it
that's
did.
them.
I just estimated because, just in case it went up this next year.
I got you, okay. But, so there might be some leeway there.
Right,
I already know.
Also with the appraisal district, I just estimated it just.
because until we get the final numbers, we don't,
Exactly.
so.
All right, no, thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
What, travel expense, what kind of travel is that for?
We have to, Vanessa and myself, we have to get public investment training, and it's a requirement of the position, so it's every 2 years, so
We
we're
alternate.
staggered. So I go 1 year, she goes the next, that way we always, because we have to have somebody certified at all times.
Okay, so you lowered it, wait, yeah.
Yes, because we had originally put maybe to have some other travel for some other employees, but since we're,
It wasn't essential.
Yes.
I believe it was for Desiree to begin with, we were trying to get her some more procurement training, but because we did this citywide, we did it across the board.
yes.
Okay, thank you for explaining that, appreciate it.
Mr. Molina?
No, looks good. Thank you.
Mr. Bethan?
We're good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask one? I forgot to ask one.
Okay.
I'm sorry, it's just one of the, I'm sorry. What is the difference between telephone service and cell phone service?
The telephone is the actual desk phone.
Oh, so your landline versus, okay, that's it, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? No? Okay. Next, we have the Information Technology Department. We did have a retirement, so you will notice the decrease in the department. And,
On 25 of the function sheet, those salaries, they need to move up one notch. So the IT manager is, we're gonna have we're not gonna have the network technician position. We're gonna have an information technology manager and then the network manager. So they got put in the wrong spot.
So instead
It
of
stays-
being
salary stays-
unfunded, it's gonna be funded?
Right, it's gonna be funded.
Which one will be
The
unfunded?
network
Technician.
The technician, okay. And on this one, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, finish, I'm sorry.
no, that's it. Go ahead.
I'll wait for council when y'all finish, go ahead. Did y'all,
Yes,
that
no,
was
that's
it?
it, that was
Okay.
it. That's it, we're fine.
Mr. Ben, any questions in reference to this?
Good.
No? Mr. Molina?
And who are these folks here for the
Hector and
IT
Matt.
manager and
It
the?
would be Hector and Matthew.
Before the picture.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Bennett?
No, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
You've got a jump here in professional services from 0 to 18,000. I was curious about that.
It shouldn't, have been. That's we
Oversight.
should have had another 18. That's for, we have a contract work to work on our security system, so that, it should have been 18 in both.
Oh, and both.
It shouldn't have been in the zero.
Okay.
It's,
We'll get that corrected for you.
Okay. Is this in here, is that, I was wondering if that professional services was the contract labor, that's totally different. No,
say that
we
again.
have someone that, is that in here, or is that
The
something?
contract worker,
Yeah.
Yes, that's what that is.
Okay, all right.
The increase from the previous year is because of the retirement. We were kind of catching part of that end of the retirement in there as well. That's why you see a decrease. Now it's just solely that contract that
Okay.
you were referring to.
Yeah, and we have, so that's a contract with Roger, who really manages the endpoint security part of what we have, and that's aside from our standard IT department that monitors as well. This is a secondary way of making sure that all of that's kept up to date, and we communicate pretty regularly on the threats that come in and those kind of things when it comes to endpoint security.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Okay, next we have Human Resources. And there's not really a difference in their department. The only thing is we did take out their travel, but that was basically it. We left everything else.
Okay. Mr. Beltran, any questions?
No.
Mr. Williams?
Looks good.
Mrs. Bowen?
I'm okay for now.
Mr. Garza?
I'm curious, what was the employee incentives?
That was for, sometimes they would have some little events here at work, and we took that out. We were planning on something else, but we were going to put it in the individual departments, so we kind of wiped it out from HR.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that'll be it for me today.
So we are gonna have something for the employees. It's just not gonna be under HR?
Well, what,
It's something we're looking at on a case by case because we are trying to cut back slightly on it. We will still have things for them.
Because I know y'all enjoy the Halloween and the costume
gift
and.
Well, that would go under, like, the Halloween, when I think council gives out, that would be your community relations.
council,
So it-
yes.
Yeah, so it's under your budget.
Well, I was talking
over
about
there.
here
Right.
when y'all do different things. What is it?
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
The little contests, little games, bingo.
And have our Christmas dinner too.
I know they enjoy that,
Yes.
And the Christmas dinner comes out of what?
105.
That's a
General
different
service,
budget,
yeah.
right?
Okay,
That's different, that's not.
right, that's what, those are different ones, right.
okay.
Yeah, there'll still be some, we're just gonna fund it differently than on here, maybe. We talked about getting together and everybody pitch in to try to do something to continue the events that we do, but self-funded internally with ourselves.
Okay. I just don't want to see it go away, because I think y'all enjoy it. Okay.
More of a potluck kind of.
Huh?
More of a potluck, I guess.
Those are fun.
All right. Any other questions, council, in reference to this? All right, go ahead.
Next, we have the fire department. You will see a decrease. The revised budget was $3,472,000, and proposed it is at $3,070,000. Some of the things we did lower their travel, their overtime. I know revised is at $557,000, and proposed we have $220,000. We're trying to eliminate non-essential overtime, so that's the reason for that decrease. They're wearing apparel. We are revisiting that to see what would be essential and non-essential. And
Vanessa, let's stop on so to touch on some of the overtime. So what happens is the essential and non-essential. There's some things that we do out there that are somewhat like community events that we'll do. And so somebody will bring people in and they're getting paid overtime to do these community events. Some are school related, some are community related. And so the school may get funding for some of these things. So we'd like to find a revenue source to continue doing those and pay for it. We just shouldn't have to pay for it out of here. And so I know Community Action has a need sometimes that they have funds to pay for. So we're gonna figure out a way to continue doing those, just find a revenue source for them. And that's what we're changing on there. If we can do some of the things on shift, and I know there was some training for a couple of police officers that our firefighters are well-trained, and they have a lot of different specialties. And so instead of having somebody come in, we can send our, a couple of police officers that need some kind of training to the fire station so they can do it when they're on their shift. And so we're changing a lot of those things to try to limit the exposure on the overtime.
May I ask a question? Patrick, can you explain the majority of your overtime, how it works, please?
So that's a very complicated question.
Okay.
Because there's different types of things. And I know there's essential and non-essential. I think we have differences of opinion on what's essential, what's non-essential.
Okay.
And so there's different types of overtime. So if somebody works on a holiday, they acquire overtime. And I don't know if y'all can give me that number of what that is. I mean, we know how many holidays there are and what we spent on exactly on the holiday, but that pay comes out of that as well. So right off the top, that's going to be a big chunk of that. Then there's also overtime where we have minimum staffing levels. And so if we have anytime our staffing level drops below 9, we have to hire somebody to come and fill that position so we maintain the right amount of trucks in service. And so, that's negotiated through the collective bargaining agreement. And so that's where the bulk of the overtime comes from, is from that. There are some other instances, like City Manager was talking about, of overtime where we will bring somebody in to teach a class. Like I'll give you an example. We do stop the bleed training. We do standard response protocol training. We do a lot of that type of training for our schools and some of our businesses as well. We've done some of our nonprofit groups. We'll do some churches, things like that. And so that does cost us money. It does cost us overtime. And the reason it costs us overtime is because if I've got 200 kids sitting in front of me, I can't afford to have a fire truck there that's in service, because if they catch a call, they've got to go take the call. That's their primary duty, right? So if they catch a call and leave, and then they leave 200 kids sitting there in front of them, there's nothing to do. What do you do with those kids? So I bring in a person to come and teach that class.
They probably love seeing that thing.
Yeah, they would love to see
Crank it
that.
up.
Yeah.
Awesome. Taking off.
Awesome.
So
They'd be like, "Where'd they go?"
to make sure that the class continues on, right, we have one firefighter that's not on duty, that's not on a fire truck, that's there to make that class happen. So that's where that overtime comes from. Did that answer your question? Or?
Yes, going back to, like employees that have to come in, like if they're sick or they have to leave, you get one of the employees that already has his full hours to come in and it goes into overtime.
Correct.
Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, so what if we were to have, this is just a suggestion, like maybe a part-time or a couple of part-time firemen to do that part, or
I know
would it
last year
offset
we
it,
talked a little bit
help
about
it?
that. We haven't really run numbers to see how that would help, but I mean, it's a possibility. I mean, it would lower, so it could potentially lower that cost.
Okay. Well, that might be something that
Depending
to
on
discuss
what we
later,
paid that
Michael, please.
firefighter.
Okay.
But I know we did talk about maybe adding a couple extra that were just like an on-call.
On call, yeah. Standby.
One other thing that might help, and we could probably bring up during collective bargaining, about, 24, 25 years ago, you and I were both volunteer firefighters here, and we felt like we were doing a lot of help to the full-time guys. If there could be any benefits of bringing that system back in, getting some guys trained, and probably helping out during the schools, or,
So-
any little bit that we can for a volunteer,
So we did, part of the CERT program
I was gonna say
that
the
we
CERT
just
program.
rolled out it will help with some of that.
Okay.
And that's kind of the idea behind that. It just, again, it takes a little bit of time to get that group trained to be able to do some of that and help in those ways. They're not going to replace a firefighter. We won't be able to get them to that level of training, but there are some other things that they could do that we won't have to necessarily bring a firefighter in to do. So there are some things out there, but again, definition of essential, non-essential. To get that CERT program trained, I need people to make that happen, and it can't be pull a guy off a fire truck, because now I got to take a fire truck out of service to go and do that. So that's where we're at a disagreement right now.
Well, I definitely want to see the CERT program funded somehow. make sure that that happens. I think it's a great program. I've researched other communities, and it's really worked, where there's a point where, like you said, the volunteers actually are certified to do those kind of things, to help the fire department, where, where the need is, not only just training, but other needs in the community, that the firemen always step up to plate, we can assist, this community can assist. Real quick, Michael, I would love to see what each department, especially our police and our fire department, first responders, needs are, a list of their needs, and what they, before we finalize all this stuff, I know it's probably, some of that's gonna come into capital improvements or capital, but just to make sure that we are covering everything that we need to cover and budget where we need to budget. And whenever you're ready to move on to the apparel, I have some questions on that, Mayor.
Mr. Beltran, do you have any questions in reference to what was?
I'm good right now.
Mr. Molina? Oh.
Us and you guys as well do a really good job covering the needs of the police and fire on equipment and things of that sort.
Right.
When we have our collective bargaining agreements, really not a whole lot of talk at all about equipment or things of that sort, because you guys have been,
Grants.
you're doing and have been traditionally a very good job keeping our equipment up to speed and making sure their needs are met when it comes to that.
Now, we've got to take our hats off to both the chiefs for finding the little extra revenues of money that comes in also too. You guys, it's a team job here.
Well, also, I just don't want to cut a portion of a budget that we may not know that that's their need. You know what I mean? That's the main thing behind it. I hope that's okay. Y'all understand that, where I'm coming from. Yeah.
And if I may kind of piggyback in on what both of y'all were saying, we know exactly how many holidays that there are, and I would like to know how much is going to be spent on overtime just on the holidays. Probably from both departments. That way we can have a general idea of, hey, no matter what, we know in overtime it's going to be this much just for those days, and that's not including overtime for emergencies or whatever
Right.
else.
Okay, we could have that by the next meeting.
Yeah, well, and we've talked about that, and we have those numbers. I think on the police, we had those numbers last week on what it costs for patrol for each holiday.
So, Mr. Beltran, no question. Mr. Molina?
At the end of the day, those are non-essential, right?
The overtime on the holiday, they have to come in, so they work, so that's the essential overtime.
I'm talking about the others that have to come in, like I'm talking like the community.
Oh, yeah, that's not
Like,
essential.
yeah. Now, I want to commend Patrick for kind of working with us on this. I know it can't be easy, having to kind of move things around and kind of compromise with staff and Michael. It saved us almost $500,000, right? So, that's some serious money there. That's all. Thank you. Appreciate it, buddy. You're all right.
No other questions?
I have one more, but I didn't know if you.
Go ahead.
Okay. On the line item for wearing apparel, can you explain, they went from 40,000 to 10,000. That's a pretty big,
So I think there was some miscommunication. I think we're supposed to revisit that.
Right.
Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah, there was some miscommunication of what was needed in there, in that budget, in that line item. So we're gonna, I believe, sit down. We talked a little bit about it yesterday, and
Okay.
we're gonna do, I guess, probably talk a little bit more about it maybe.
Prior to the next one. Yeah.
okay?
Hey, Patrick, and if memory serves me correct, the bunker gear is timed out, right, also?
Yes.
So we could be running.
Yeah, that's kind of what we
That comes out
talked
of
about.
funding, right? That line
Uh,
item.
Yeah, you have.
Define that. What's timed out?
So it does have a shelf life. So bunker gear does, it's regulated by the Texas Commission on Fire Protection and National Fire Protection Association. So we can only use that gear for a certain amount of time.
How much?
It just depends on there's different parts of that. So some of them are at 5 years, some of them are at 2 years, some of them are at 10 years.
Yeah.
And so it just depends. And we tried to kind of not replace it until we have to replace it. But sometimes it gets cut a little bit short, maybe it gets torn, maybe it gets destroyed. So I had one that was covered in diesel, at a call, so I had to replace that. So we have to make sure that there's funds in there to be able to replace the special occasions that happens. There's little things like that, and then there's some that we can plan because we know that it's going to time out at a certain time. But then there's also new hires. When we hire somebody new, we've done some things to try to help alleviate that cost. So one of the things, and I know I was talking about it yesterday again, when we hire a new firefighter, they're on probation, and so sometimes firefighters don't make it past that probationary period, and they move on for whatever reason. And so this bunker gears, it's about between 35 and 4,000 a set, right? Once you're done with the full set. So to spend that kind of money on somebody who we don't know is going to make it past a probationary period has proven to be something that really not a wise investment for us. So we try to wait till they're done with the probationary period before we make that investment on them, so we know that they're going to stick around for a little bit longer. So one of the things that we've done is we started doing rentals, so that you can rent that gear, and if the guy only makes it 6 months and goes his separate ways, we just return the gear, and now we're not out that $4,000. So we are looking at doing some things a little differently to try to help minimize that cost.
Just so you understand it, we would never nickel and dime fire and safety, just overtime, there's a little more discretion there, so that's the only standpoint. But I appreciate all your accommodation, but
That's why I asked, what your needs were, because I don't want to cut something where there's a need.
Well,
We wouldn't, I mean, if there's a need, we meet those needs. Wearing apparel, there was we were trying to figure out where the expenses were coming from. Patrick does things a little differently, so some years he'll spend quite a bit, the next year he won't, and so when we're looking behind there, the last few years, it looked like it was pretty high on what they were doing, and so we had a conversation with Patrick.
Okay.
Patrick's, pretty busy, and so a lot of times it's both he and Chief, being police chief, fire chief, they stay pretty busy, and so we try to work around their schedule on finance and myself when we can meet, and so sometimes that causes things like this. We're making a decision on that, and we're in the middle of trying to get a hurricane preparedness, and we still have our stuff to do.
Exactly.
But they may not be able to come in, and so that happens.
I had one
But yeah,
quick question.
Okay.
We're talking about bunker gear here, right? Okay. Like, what is the average cost of like one out, like?
Full set head to toe is about $4,000.
$4,000. Wow.
Is that the boots, pants, jacket, helmet?
No,
And
that's good.
does that include a breathing apparatus?
Breathing apparatus is a whole
That's a
other.
whole
And
different.
every firefighter has their own personal set.
Yeah, it's tailor fit to that firefighter. So, and the other problem is the lead time on this stuff. So right now I have needs that I have some sets of gear that I need to replace, but it won't be in time before this fiscal year's over, right? So it'll come out of next year's budget. But it used to be you could call the company and say, hey, I need a bunker coat, size whatever, and then they'd have it on the shelf. Well, since they came out with this regulation where it's got a shelf life now,
Yeah.
they wait till you order it to make it, to
Right,
put
yeah,
it together.
otherwise it sits there.
Because the time starts ticking as soon as they're done manufacturing it. So it's a little harder to do. The lead time on those is a lot longer.
Got it.
Thank you, Patrick. Appreciate it.
And
That's
can
all I
you
have.
explain the travel expense going down 4,000? I mean, what was the reason for that?
I think that was citywide, I think is what Vanessa said. I mean,
4,000, that's a big jump. What do you use travel for? What is it?
that's training. That's primarily what we're using our travel for. We send firefighters to get that specialty training that I was mentioning earlier. We do have, we're a lot of people lean on us for knowledge, and so it takes, firefighting isn't just something you go to school, get certified, and you're done. It's a constant, every year you're training, even all the way up to the chief level where I'm at. There's trainings that I need to stay on top of. There's changes that come out, there's meetings, there's all kinds of different trainings that we've got to be at, and that's where that gets paid out of.
I think we should come back and kind of look at what you actually do spend, more or less, I mean, on that. And just look at it again, that amount.
We'll get with it.
Thank you, Mayor, that's
Just
all.
3 of them.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to say that
There's 3.
across the board, everyone's making sacrifices because of, we're trying to we have a common goal to service our citizens, and it costs, and we don't want to ever compromise on any of our safety. We always want to provide that for our community, which I do feel like some of these things perhaps are there grants that could help you offset some of that cost, where is there anything that you could team up with other fire departments where if that budget is this much, where you can, offset, where we're not having to travel to Houston or wherever it is, and maybe there's something, I don't know, just something to think about, and grants, to pursue more of those grants.
So, in reference to the grants, I know there used to be a grant avenue that we would go through to pay for a lot of the tuition, but it doesn't cover the travel part. The tuition is a little easier to get the grants to cover it. They've gotten a lot stricter on what they're approving. Some of the courses that used to get approved are no longer being approved by the Forest Service. And so they have tightened up a little bit on that. So it hasn't dried up completely. There is some grant, but it only covers tuition and not travel. So that's where it kind of hurts us. The other part, teaming up with other departments, it gets a little different. We do that quite frequently, actually. We'll try to bring in an instructor here and try to host other departments. Our problem is that a lot of our classes, they're very lengthy. So sometimes it's a week-long class. So you're looking 8 to 5 sitting in a classroom. Well, our problem is that a lot of our departments around us are volunteer departments. Those guys aren't going to come and sit for 40 hours in a class. And that's the difference between a career department and a volunteer department. Our staff can come and sit in that, but getting other departments to come and do that is really hard to do. So on top of that, our tuition usually won't cover, for me to bring an instructor, I got to have at least 15 people in that class. Sometimes I'm not going to train 15 firefighters in that specialty because we can't afford the tuition for 15 of them to go through that. I can send maybe 3 guys or 4 guys, and so it kind of costs more to send more people through that, even though we're going to host it. So yeah, but we do look at that. We do try to host whatever we can host. Where we have been seeing some successes on the wildland side. Because we have the Forest Service here, we have been able to convince them to come in and teach some classes here.
Okay.
And it does bring in other departments. So we had, this last round that we did, we had some mission firefighters. We had some, we're like from the Houston area. I can't remember the department they were in, but we do bring in other departments to come and train here. But it has gotten a little difficult to recruit people to come and take the class here in Alice. It gets...
Are those classes, but they're required to take those classes, aren't they?
Correct.
Do you say that your equipment or uniforms are timed, or
Yeah,
I forgot the,
Yeah, they have shelf lives, I guess, or use life.
Expiration date on them.
yeah, so do you have a list that you have, okay, we purchased this on this date?
So I have
We
a
some-
spreadsheet,
You do?
and I track it that way.
Okay, so you have a dollar amount that you could easily convey?
For the planned ones, yes. Now, keep in mind, this firefighter left, we had to hire another firefighter. I've got to buy him a set.
But you could incorporate that off, like, more or less. And
Right.
but I'm just saying, do you have a list right now that you can say, this is pretty much what we're gonna incur during this fiscal year, more or less, so that you do have a great, an idea to say, okay, well, that allocation we did is pretty much in line, we can work with that.
Yes, I do.
Okay. The other thing too is just the overtime. I know that I had asked, just that we look at it, because the majority of our budget, that's a big chunk, and I want to make sure just that it's realistic, that, we can obtain that, because that'd be kind of tough for us to make up throughout the year, the fiscal year. So that, and then, I would see if you can get that for, and have a number that.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're gonna talk about.
A tangible
I
number.
mentioned we were gonna go back and kind of look at that word. I don't know.
And then, vehicle repairs and maintenance, that's another almost 75,000 less. Is that something, do we have a trend? Do we have an idea, or?
Again, me and Gabriel have talked about some of that.
Yeah, we're also looking, when we get, the garage is gonna be here too, we'll talk about that too, but, there's a couple of things we're doing, on that side of it, and one is we're looking at going with, Enterprise at a per vehicle, per cost, where they track and pretty much do fleet management for us. and we utilize their vendors at preset prices, and they go through each invoice and they make sure that the vendor's properly charging and doing the repair work that's supposed to be done. And that's on any VIND vehicle. At the same time, there's a couple of retirements at the garage, and we're looking to fill one of those with somebody that has heavy equipment, which costs us heavy equipment, costs us quite a bit, have heavy equipment knowledge to be able to see where it needs to go, what the problem is, and just change a little bit of what we're doing now. And of course, that would involve a lot of the fire repairs that need to do to the engines and things of that sort.
Okay. And I know that's kind of a specialty and stuff, so.
It is,
we
on
gotta-
a fire truck, there is a special certification that they have to, so it's not just any mechanic that can work on those. On the engine part, changing oil, that kind of stuff, that's a normal mechanic. But on the other side of that truck, we have pumps that have to be maintained, and those, they have to be certified to be able to do those. So there's a special certification that person has to have. So a lot of time, even when we did have our garage, it was still being sent out anyway, so, because nobody at our garage had that certifications. It does cost.
I just ask, whatever we can do to come real close to what we're trying to budget, because I know this fiscal year is important. We have other goals that council and that we're all trying to work together to service our community. So anything that we can be more realistic and make sure that that's a real number, because I don't want to have to come back and then we say, oh man, but also just be mindful if you can just whatever you think that's realistic and look at those numbers and come up with those that they can help offset and budget properly. But if you can hit a lot of this, I think we would all be so grateful, I know it's tough. It's not an easy thing, but it's a fiscal year.
Right.
This fiscal year, because we have so many needs throughout our community.
If I may, Mayor, I think
Sure.
some of the decrease in the maintenance is we've gotten rid of some of the older trucks. I know that one in particular was Cash Cow with the electrical problems that we continuously had. But we've gotten rid of most of the old equipment. We've got new equipment and
We have some newer equipment, and some of the cost this last year was our two older pieces of equipment. And I've talked to Gabriel about that. We've kind of taken a look at. We just had one that the entire beam that holds the tank of gas on it is completely rusted out, and so they had to replace that, and so that's a costly repair. And they're older pieces of equipment that we're spending a lot of money on.
And I know Mr. Esparza has some ideas too, so, but I appreciate it. Just whatever we can do to come.
Yeah, and we
What we
did,
can do.
we sat down with a couple other companies. He mentioned Enterprise. There's another, we're exploring different options of other ways to try to kind of pre-plan some of those expenses like he's mentioned, or the maintenance on them. There's some
And-
programs out there that we can do to help.
Really appreciate it, honestly. And I know, we just talked about this the other day about, you mentioned Stop the Bleed. There was a check that was, so maybe some organizations will help offset that too,
Right.
for the training. Okay. Any other questions, council? No? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Patrick.
Thank you.
Okay, next we have municipal court. There was no changes to their budget. You see theirs covers their salaries. Municipal court judge and city prosecutor, and that's about it.
There were no major changes, you said?
No.
How would you do?
No.
Okay. Mr. Beltran, any questions?
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you, Mr.
Who are
Moreno.
these folks, Michael?
Pardon?
Who are these folks?
Municipal court?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, Blanca and Joanne.
Okay. That's all. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen? No, thank you. Mr. Garza?
they've got an increase in their travel here, I noticed. Are they gonna be doing courses or anything?
The judge
They
has
have
to
to send
go.
to the legislature, something like that, yes.
And another curiosity question, the fines collected through the municipal, where does that go?
To the general fund.
It does go to the general fund as well. And do we have do we have a certain round number? This is how much we've collected from them?
If you go back to
The
the
revenue,
revenue
yes.
page, they're broken down depending on what they consist of.
Theirs is on page 8, under fines and forfeitures.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So that's what the
That's-
officer, and then they collect the money for them.
Mayor Pro Tem, question, you were asking about on the function sheet or on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Employees.
On the
Okay, yeah,
salary. Yes, yeah, you,
Yes.
you're right.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Is it Joanne and then?
Yes,
Well,
Joanne.
Okay, that's right.
Yeah.
On the software maintenance agreement, we went up on that. Are we improving or?
No, they have, another fund that,
Helps offset
yes,
the.
so, it's based off when the, customer pays their fine, a portion of that does go towards like a security fund and then an IT fund. And we base it year by year, how much is in that fund that could help offset their, maintenance.
So you're anticipating we're not gonna receive as much? And that's why we went up?
We're just being conservative.
Conservative. Oh, I'm fine. I told you I liked what
No,
y'all
no.
were doing. I do, on the electricity again, and some of the, I just saw that it was at 3,045.
And that may have been,
Apart from the
yeah,
move.
yeah.
Because they were in the front of PD and then they moved to their own building.
Oh.
so
That may
there
have been a
wasn't
partial
And it was a
year.
partial year, so yeah,
Okay,
so that's fine.
okay. Well, I appreciate it, all right.
Okay, next we're starting with the police department with, administration. I don't think there's too much of a difference. I know on their software there was a change and they were just gonna divide it evenly between, admin, CID, support, and I believe patrol. So you will notice that, that jump for proposed for 10,000 on page 36. But I think overall, the change was actually a savings.
Council, any questions in reference to this fund or this department? Mr. Beltran?
So I noticed there was a weed and pest control, so $25, that's
Oh, what? I'm sorry.
the $25 charge for the weed and pest control supplies.
I think they may have just bought,
Bee spray.
Bee spray or-
You don't want chief to get stung.
yeah,
Oh, that's a
mosquito
bargain.
repellent or something.
That's a hell of a bargain. Yeah, that's-
Mr. Whitman?
I'm just impressed. Yeah. Good job. Thank you, Chief, staff.
Mrs. Bowen?
I just have a question on professional services on page 36.
The 15,000?
Yes.
So I believe it was like a
Do you wanna-
technical, a technical
About the
support.
PTS where you were gonna hold it for a year for technical assistance.
So this past year, we've made some changes to our
Congratulations.
report writing system that we're currently, so we've always used PTS. We've now moved over to a new company or new product. It's called Crimes, and that's through San Jose State University. So that has allowed us a little bit, matter of fact, for the first time, we got our letter today through NIBRS that we are 100% compliant, which we had never been done before, but with the new system, it's got us there. And so we saw, we had to pay PTS 15,000 instead of the 37,000. We paid half to keep it going so we don't lose data, or if something happens, at least we can still go back to PTS. I think we paid it up till August.
I see.
You're also going to see another increase, cost of 14,000, and that's to mirror the PTS, right? So that way we can carry everything from PTS, have it in another system. That way we don't lose all that data that we've had for 22 years. And so that they charged us 14,000 for that. All of that came from the monies that we had earmarked for PTS from the year before.
Got it.
So it's not really costing us anything. Actually, we're going to save some money on that in the long run.
Okay. I kind of thought that's what it was, but I wanted to make sure.
Yes,
All right,
ma'am.
thank you so much on that.
Thank you.
Mr.
You've got a wearing apparel honor guard from 2000 to 0. I'm just curious what that is.
So, we have an honor guard, and it's made up of, I believe, 7 officers. They have their uniforms. Hopefully, they don't outgrow them or lose too much weight. So far, we haven't added anyone, or anyone has left that were in the honor guard, so they continue. And so there's no need for us to get a new uniform or have that monies in there if we're not going to have anyone. Yes, sir.
Thank you. The jail contract expense, we jumped from 15 to 18. Is that because we're sending more people into the jail? Or?
Well, it actually
It's
is a
just a-
reduction because it's revised. We actually haven't spent the 18.
Okay.
So this year looks better. We're just going back to.
We're just going back to next, just in
Okay.
case.
Okay, no, fine, thank you.
I have a question on office supplies. I just wanted to see, I know in the past it was 13, then 28, and then 5. Is that,
I think a lot of that has to do with because Anita is the one that buys for all the departments, and I think we're counting on her to actually split the cost among the departments rather than having administration cover for the whole
Absorb
PD.
that.
Right.
okay. Okay. Facility repair and maintenance supplies, that, it was 71, then 555. Just, you feel comfortable with that number?
I think that was an AC or something.
That's supply, but that's supplies, so that's just if you bought like light bulbs, things for inside.
2 years ago.
That you're gonna repair,
Okay.
or
years
y'all are
ago
gonna
you
change
said.
yourself.
You're laughing about
I was gonna say that, I see you went on the meals and catering, thank you. Ay. No, I think those were the main ones, and then y'all answered some of the other. The one thing, I know we had a discussion, and I'm not sure when it's gonna be appropriate to bring this up. We had mentioned, I wasn't sure on the fee schedule, Mr. Esparza, that there were some items that I wondered if we could address, but when it pertains to some of the fines they charge. But with that, is that when we go over the fee schedule?
Yeah, we'll spend a lot of time on that. That's the
Okay.
third budget meeting. We'll be there.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chief. All right. Yeah, we're good, right? Everyone, yes, ma'am. All right.
Okay, next we have, support services, and this includes your records clerks and, your dispatchers. And, this department, the overtime, the revised budget, I looked at it a little bit closer, and I can lower that a little bit. There was some grant that hadn't been applied yet, the Lone Star grant.
Okay.
So I can lower that, and I think the 35,000 for next year would be enough. It is an increase from the adopted, but I think it's more in line. And
And what with that Lone Star, where does it affect the overtime?
yes, it's an overtime grant.
So you think, what we've estimated, the 35, you think with that grant, we still could offset a little bit, or is that what you said?
That's with
That's
offset.
with
That's
offset.
with
That's
offset.
with,
Yes.
okay, gotcha, okay.
And that's why she was saying that 80 right now that we showed for revised, that actually can be reduced because we did
Oh,
try to
okay.
get some more to offset it this year.
Okay.
That's great.
Council, any questions on this,
Good.
in this department?
Okay.
Mr. Molina?
And it's good, very conservative with the exception of the telephone service kind of jump, but
Yeah,
that's
we're
good.
We're gonna look at those things though.
Right.
Those contracts and stuff.
Hector and Matthew have been,
Okay.
they're helping us quite
Good
a bit.
job,
Good.
Gabriel.
Mrs. Brown?
So where in the Paro's proposed budget is 0, is that correct?
That was one we worked with Chief and he's helping us out. We could change it at a later date, but I think because this takes care of dispatch, it's kind of the personnel that's behind the scenes. They're not in front of the citizens. So we've purchased a lot of uniforms for them, so we figured it might be okay to hold off for a time being right
For
now
this
because
one.
they're
That's
not in
fine
front of the
with that.
public.
And maybe an every other year
Right.
type of thing.
Nice,
That'd be, yeah.
thank you.
I appreciate that.
You okay with that, Chief? I mean, they're speaking for you. I'd rather hear from you.
That's fine.
Put you on the spot.
No, not at all.
This is dispatch, right?
Dispatch.
Okay,
They're essential.
they are.
They're essential. No, we didn't know.
Absolutely.
Yes.
We just stated because they weren't in front of the public.
Yes.
We're kind of moving that citywide. We're kind of looking at it not only on PD, we're kind of looking at it citywide. Those individuals that aren't in front of the public,
Okay.
we're
Because
kind
they're
of,
not getting so much wear and tear on the uniform anyway.
Correct.
Right. So-
and if we could push it off to every other year,
Every other year.
right.
Okay.
Don't worry, ma'am, I always have money somewhere.
Take care of it.
That's why I don't complain.
I can't do it all by myself. Just kidding.
So
Just kidding.
on the software maintenance agreement, we went to 10 on that.
That's
What-
the one where we were just discussing
the
the
one that-
crimes, and it's 10,000. You're gonna see it in each of their departments.
Okay. Any other questions, council? Good?
Good.
Thank you. The next.
Next we have the CID department. This one you will see an increase, but then you'll see the decrease in patrol. So there was, I believe, one officer that was moved from patrol to CID, or that's which, okay. Also on their grants, on their overtime, I did see that I could lower their revised overtime, and the 40,000 would be in line with that as well. Everything else, I believe, is kind of in line.
Okay, council. Mr. Bentham, any questions?
We're good.
Mr. Molina?
Just real quickly. Oh, we're good. We're good. It's a salary that kind of threw it off there.
Yes,
Yeah.
we added an officer there, but you'll see the decrease in
Right.
patrol.
Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Garcia?
The only thing I really noticed is the software maintenance agreement, software maintenance agreement, where it jumped from 2,188 to 10,000.
Yes, that was the PTS2 crimes, correct?
Okay.
So we're, every business unit, and it's a little different for us. So you have administrations paying 10, you have CID paying 10, you have patrol paying 10.
Okay.
So it's, that's why you're gonna see.
Yeah, because I was noticing it in all the other ones also, like you mentioned.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
I know we had talked about the gas, like some departments had a gas bill. Do we still have items on that are utilized?
Gas, like natural gas.
Natural gas,
Natural
yes.
gas.
Yeah, that building.
That
has
building.
gas
That one does.
For heating.
The water?
The garage has natural gas.
Garage, yeah.
Okay, I think that's something we had seen. All right.
You know, Chief, we talked about a DARE program officer. Will you find funding for that? We need to bring that back. Just keep that on the back of your head. Look at my, it's a great program. My kids loved it. Look, one of them's an officer now.
We can always look at, DARE programs. I was a DARE officer for
Okay.
5 years, so don't get me wrong, I love the DARE program. That would I'd have to take another officer off the streets. Right now, we're shorthanded. Naturally, we're getting them trained. We're getting 3 new ones. Hopefully, I can get another one. It's
Oh, I
on
would-
talks. But if we push another one just to be a DARE officer, that takes another officer off the streets. That keeps us, and now we're short on our streets of officers. So instead of maybe having 4, we're down to 3. And that becomes a liability to the city. However, we'll always look at different avenues. We are looking for grants already for next year. And I've met with Gabe and our city manager about that and how we could offset some of the costs if we get these grants. I've been in talks with other agencies and going and talking about these grants for positions. But my fear is, okay, if we get these positions, how are we going to fund them for the next year and the next year after that? So we're not just looking at this year and next year. We're looking at 2 years, 3 years, because it's going to raise the cost of our monies that are going to go to in our budget. So I have to be weary of that, and do we have the monies? So-
Well, I'm not saying to take an officer off for the patrol to do this, but just to think about in the future when we're fully staffed and we, just keep it in the back of your head.
Oh, I have, ma'am. I have, and we are working on that.
Okay.
We will accomplish that somehow.
Thank you.
Council, any questions?
McGruff the dog.
Where's McGruff?
Mr. Garcia, anybody else?
And I may be asking this prematurely, because I was gonna ask this when we got into the patrol and traffic division, but you kind of mentioned something about it already. How many officers would you say we need to get to where we want to be?
So I think we're short 2 officers with our, strength of force. We're short 2. And we've been able to maintain them with what we have.
Oh, yes.
In a perfect world, would we love to have those 2? Yeah, we'd love to. And that's what we're looking to get to, at least that number, which would give us 39 officers.
Now, is that 39 officers that are just for patrolling streets, or does that include our detectives and school resource officers and?
That includes everybody.
Oh, that does include
Yes, sir.
everybody?
So our strength of force calls for 39. We're hoping that maybe one day as time moves on that we could fill those 2 positions. Right now, we're at 37.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And I guess, how many officers do we have in each, I guess, breakdown, like I said? How many resource officers do we have? How many officers do we have on patrol? How many detectives and stuff like that?
So on patrol, I think we have 24, 25 officers. In CID, we have 7. And then you have your administration, myself, lieutenants. And I think that's it. I know it's got to equal 37, so my math might be off. But I know in CID we do have 7 because that's an easy number for me to remember. And the rest would be on patrol.
How many did you say in admin?
On admin, we have Lieutenant Jaramillo, myself, and Corporal Arispe. That's 3. So that'll leave us with how many?
That's 34.
Yeah, that's 30.
34. So
If
oh,
you
so
look
we
at
still
all
have
the.
3 in the academy.
Oh, that's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Did they count
Three in the
the
academy.
hundred?
Employee title, it
Yeah,
tells you how many.
Yeah, if you look at the
Ida.
function sheets, like on page 34,
Yeah, it tells you.
It has a breakdown.
37, 39,
Under,
it'll show you the breakdown.
it's right there.
Yeah, 27 on patrol.
Okay, my apologies.
Yeah, because I believe at one point we had up to 44
Support
officers
services.
back in the, when it was strong, right? The economy was strong. And through the hard times, naturally, we all took a hit. Right now, we're at 37. Our strength of force should be 39, so we're lacking.
Okay. Thank you. No other questions for this? All right.
No, okay, I'm sorry. Next, we have the Drug Enforcement Task Force. This one has one officer. Not much change on this department. This one also, his overtime is funded by,
That's funded through the federal government. That's through DA. Everything's funded through, the only thing we pay is the salary.
yes.
They pay the vehicle, they pay everything else. Oh, we also pay for the oil changes on that vehicle that's been awarded to us through the DA.
And it allows us to participate in, gather forfeiture funds.
Yes.
That is correct.
Council, any other questions in reference to this department?
Good.
No?
Who's this person?
So, Officer Sorensen, he lives in Corpus. We have him assigned to DEA, and he's been with us since I've been here. That was one of my first hires that I brought in. So he's been with DEA. He works through their office. He's made some substantial narcotics arrests throughout the state, and also forfeitures. There's been quite a few of them.
And his office is here, Stage?
Yes, sir. He's assigned, he works for Alice PD, assigned to DEA.
Thank you, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Good.
Next, we have patrol and traffic. And again, you'll notice we moved one officer to CID. This does include the cadets for about 3/4 of the year, since they should be graduating at the end of December. So we do include their salaries for 3/4 of the year. Any questions?
Mr. Beltran?
I noticed that the ammunition, we had 0 and then.
Oh, yes.
what's going on
It was backlogged and you were gonna order, but it's kinda in arrears the way you do your ammo, right? You order it, but it doesn't come in. until
It takes a
the following
while
year.
to come in.
Correct. So I think it's at 0 because
You had some this year.
we had enough ammunition. So we didn't have to spend that money to try to save money for the city. We postponed it till next year. So next year's budget, you'll see it. So
Right.
we'll buy that ammunition next year. Right?
Right,
This
well, you
is
buy
it.
it,
You're
you
buying
buy
it
it this
this
year, but
year.
it comes in next year, so we'll pay for it next year.
Pay for it next year.
Right.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Mr. Molina?
No, just, I like the conservative approach. I mean, it's nice to see those numbers kind of, I guess, find the wiggle room to get them down. Appreciate that. Thank you, staff.
Chief works hard and he also finds funding
A lot.
a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
we get surprised sometimes on where he gets funding.
Well, you can fund the DARE program.
And again, that's why we're looking at different funding.
Right.
And there are grants for, matter of fact, we have a position that may be coming up on our Lone Star grant.
Yes.
So I don't like to count my chickens before they hatch, right? But that's the possibility that we do get another officer. So that's, we cross our fingers on that.
There you go. Thank you, Chief.
I have one more question. What small tools are you anticipating to need this coming up budget? Just minor equipment and small tools.
Yeah, there's a jump from 5,000 to 15,000.
Is there an anticipation?
Actually, it's dropped from last year.
That could
Right.
be anything, I mean, flashlight, anything for your patrol officers, I mean.
So, if it went up, we may be looking to offset some of the cost on equipment or,
The new
again,
officers maybe too, probably, I think.
I'm not saying flashlights cost 15,000, right?
no.
But there are other pieces of equipment that we may be looking at. I'd have to go back and really look. I don't want to just say something and I'm wrong and give you bad information. But if you could, I could get it out to you all and give you an exact figure of why that money's. And right now, off the top of my head, I can't give you that number. My apologies for that. Good question, sir. Thank you.
You're good? Mr. Molina?
I already did.
Okay. Mrs. Bowen? Thank you. Mr. Garza?
How many vehicles do the patrol cars, or patrol units have?
So I believe we have a total of 24. Of the 24, 7 are new. The rest are older model units. They're either 2013s, 2019s, 2017s. We've been very fortunate through our maintenance program. We've been able to keep them going. We've been able to keep them on the road. So that's the totality of how many units we have. In CID, we're going to have another 7 units. I believe we may have 8 because we have an extra unit. It's an older model one that we use as a, to pull our signs that we have out, whether it's the radar signs or the camera systems, we use that truck. But yes, sir, it's,
And is the 24 units sufficient, or would we, because ideally, I know that there was talk about wanting to do where the officer's able to take home a unit.
And we do.
Because of the bonnet, they do.
They do, and so, and please forgive me for this, but I'll be honest with you on this. So, they do take home units. I remember if we go back to 2021, we saw, we were paying a lot of money for repairs on our old units, right? And I believe, if I'm correct, in our figures, about 120, 130 a year on repairs. And I believe in 2023, we finished roughly at 63,000. Eventually, we're going to have to replace those cars. I'm okay with the units that we have, but eventually there's going to have to come a time that we replace those units, whether it's 1 unit a year or 2 units, or maybe even look and say, you know what, let's look at DPS and see what they have for sale and maybe purchase 2 or 3 of them. We have purchased 3 units from DPS, I believe, and Gabe, we've got a couple of them also. And they've turned out really well. The county has given us vehicles. The Sheriff's Department has given us vehicles. They've given us, maybe 7 vehicles. But the city hasn't purchased 1 vehicle for us. So at some point, we hope to start moving and replacing those vehicles. A new vehicle.
Did, when we had the White Ranch grant.
The White Ranch has bought
We did
new
too,
vehicles
right?
for us. Yes, ma'am.
We can't depend on them always.
No. Or the sheriff.
Yeah, the last one we did was for Enterprise.
Yeah, those were those 2019s.
That the city did, right.
And of the 24 units that we have, are they ours? We don't have any vehicles that are leased or anything like that, or?
No, they're ours.
Okay, they're ours. Good, good. All right, then.
Oh, the
Oh.
enterprise.
Do we have the 2019s? How much do we
I think this is the
The last
This
year.
is the last year?
Yeah.
This may be the last year for
There's 4 of
Yes,
them.
sir. There's 4.
That's 4 of them that were Enterprise, all right.
Yes.
But after this, we'll own them.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And they've done great. I mean, we maintained them, and right now, as any, and I think all directors can talk, the air conditioning has gone bad. We always have so much trouble with our air conditioning systems, but we've been able to keep them going.
All right, well, I appreciate you. Thank you for all the sacrifices you all do and
Okay.
doing everything you can.
I have one question.
Yes, sir, please.
Ask you, does every officer get a unit assigned to them personally, that's their unit, or is there a rotation?
So if you've been with the force 5 years or more, and really right now we're looking at that, but all supervisors get to take their units home. And if you've been here over 5 years, you get to take a unit home. As long as you're within a certain radius of our city, you get to take a unit home. So most all our officers that are 5 years or more are from this area, so they get to take their unit home. And it's also good community policing. You park your unit outside, people in the neighborhood see their units. So yes, sir, to answer your question, yes.
So, okay.
But not everybody.
So do you see a possibility of doing that and the maintenance maybe going down because there's more of an ownership, and as far as the wear and tear and just kind of preserving it?
Of course, because that's their car, right?
Exactly.
And so they take ownership, so now they're getting their oils changed. They're getting their oil changed. They're getting the tires. If they have something's wrong with their unit, the only one to blame is that person.
Exactly.
They can't blame someone else. Well, I got here, somebody. No, it's their responsibility. So they make sure that if they have problems, they bring them in, and we take it to get repaired or get serviced. And we've noticed that on our older units, you're starting to see more. And yes, it's you're talking 150, 180,000 miles to these units. So
why the 5 years? Is that your rule that you've implemented? Or?
correct. So if you've been here 5 years or more, you get to take a unit.
Okay.
And
Would
we've
you
noticed the
consider-
costs come down. Yes, sir.
Would you consider maybe lessening that? And is there a reason why? I just.
And there is, only because if you look at all the others, we don't have enough units.
Okay.
And so they're rotating those older model units.
Okay.
In a perfect world, yeah, we'd love for everyone to have one.
Okay, that makes perfect sense.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Thank you.
Of course.
And they're keeping them clean, too.
They're keeping them clean, and thank you for our city manager. And Gabe, we take him through a car wash. And that's easy.
I saw an air freshener with them.
What's that, sir?
I saw an air freshener on one of them.
Yes, sir. So we wash them every day. As we try to.
Yeah.
It
It's
shows
nice.
the appearance.
Takes pride.
It takes pride, and you, especially if it's yours and you get taken home.
For that special person in the back seat, they have a something right.
I know earlier you talked about, because we have pride in what we do as a department, you talked about overtime. And you saw an increase in overtime, but no one has talked about it a little bit, but I'll talk about it. Last year, we got 75,000 in overtime. So we went back and we did the numbers, and out of the 75,000 in overtime, and we hadn't figured this, I take responsibility for this. So we hadn't looked at it, well, we have holiday pay, right? So you have 15 days, and it's costing our department $5,000 a day to run on a holiday. So 5,000 times 15 is $75,000. So all our overtime was already taken. It's already paid, called, it's gone, right? Because we know it's going to go to holidays. So anything over, it's naturally our overtime is going to go above and beyond. It doesn't fall within the grants. So that's why you're going to see in our next year an increase in our budget on overtime. It's not much, but we're trying to make sure, because we've broken it down by day, what it costs, and what we expect next year to see. So our city manager was hard on looking at that, and Gabe. So that's something that I thought that you all should know, that we have taken the time. We do break down our numbers. From our vehicles to our overtime, we do look at those things.
It helps with budgeting, where we get more into a more realistic number, especially when we're being very conservative. So thank you for taking that initiative and being proactive on that. One thing I wanted to ask was on the subscriptions. It went from 11.8 and then 34,000. Is there a reason for that? Or?
For the subscriptions, and I believe that goes back to, so you're not just looking at, and so here's my, so you can understand where I'm coming from. When we look at the 30,000, 40,000 for crimes, right? Remember, we were paying 37,000 in the past. Now we're going to pay 40,000, and you can say it's an increase. But on the back end, if we get rid of our ticket riders, which is, I believe, part of it is through that, we pay 16,000 extra for our ticket riders. My goal is to get rid of that, and in the long run, next year, save us a little bit more money. And I believe the subscriptions comes through that, and also,
That's, I believe it's like the Mentalex, the Live Scan, the Net Motion, the PCS.
and then all our other programs that we do have, which would be our, like the LPR readers, also we pay a
Yes.
subscription, because so we can now, that's how we bring our crime down, right? Is by knowing who's in town. I can tell you who's in town every day, because our LPR readers are looking at cars. We do have scanners now, we do have equipment that we didn't have before, that I can get your credit card, and if it's stolen, I can run it through our system, and it'll tell us how much you have, who it belongs to. It'll give us all the information that we need. All that costs money. We also have for our drone program, another subscription for that. Our drone program is, and then we have what we call Calio. That's another program that we have when we're undercover. Officer can utilize, that's another subscription. So we have seen our subscriptions go up, but it's always for the safety of our officers and how we can better safeguard our community. That's what it's for. And I think, I can promise you, ma'am, I left 3 or 4 different subscriptions out.
You're fine. Thank you for that explanation. Thank you. Council, any other questions in reference to this department? No? Okay. Goodness. Good.
Okay, next we have the cadet program. And this is for 3 cadets for October through December. We have them budgeted for proposed, and they started, I believe, in July though, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Began in July? Okay. So their books and their tuition was paid in revised, so there's no expense for next year. And I believe that's it for the cadet program.
Council, any questions in reference to this? Ada? Nothing, Mr. Booth?
No,
Mr.
we're good,
Molina?
thank you.
No, we're good.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
Just to clarify, these cadets that we're paying to go to school, they're signing a 2-year contract with the city?
That is correct, sir.
Okay,
They have to work here 2 years.
perfect. That's fine, thank you. That's it.
And electricity and natural gas, is that just something we're plugging in?
Are you on
That's
page
a different,
49?
that's a
Okay,
different
I'm sorry.
department, 49.
Oh,
The
I-
substation, sorry.
That's
It
okay.
doesn't have its own.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Punch-in
I'm
sheet.
sorry, I turned it and didn't.
Oh, you're fine.
On 49, the substation, that one only has electricity and natural gas. And then right below that, we have the LEOS program, and that is, I believe, a state program, and they send us usually about 2,000 to 3,000 a year to send some officers to some training.
So we currently house some of our officers that are from out of town through HUD. They give us a home with 4 bedrooms.
Wow.
And so they stay there rent-free. The only thing we
Okay.
pay is electricity and natural gas and water. I think the water's big into us.
Okay,
Yes,
that's good.
Nice.
Pretty neat.
Council, any other questions in reference to this?
Good.
Good.
Okay.
One more, chief.
I know, this is the last one. We have the Humane Department. And we have 2 humane officers, and there was no real change to their department.
Council, any questions in reference to this department? Mr. Ventura? Mr.
No,
Molina?
we're good. We're good.
Sorry, Mr. Molina?
I'm good. Looks good. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
It looks good, and thank you and your officers for taking care of our animals out there.
yes.
Appreciate that.
Mr. Garza?
Everything looks, I mean, they're reductions, so I can't argue with those, so. No, it looks good, thank you. Thank you for taking care of our furry animals.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
This is a good stopping point. Take maybe a 15-minute lunch break or something,
Yeah.
Hungry.
and we can come back and continue on with the rest of the.
What did you say? What did you say?
I said, I'm not after the
you-
presentation, it was such a good presentation, he was gonna say, let's give the chief a raise.
We'll find the money.
Too funny.
Okay.
No comment.
No sandwich for him.
Cookie.
No bologna sandwich for you.
Okay, so then it's 11:56. We'll recess for 15 minutes? 15, 20 minutes?
20,
Maybe 30. 15.
Having so much fun.
I have to return.
Hey, welcome back to our city council workshop. It is 12:34 PM and we'll resume our workshop. Mr. Esparza?
And so, went through city council, city clerk, administration, general service, emergency management, finance, IT, HR, fire, municipal court, police, and now we'll start with a lot of the other funds in the general fund. Streets, engineering, parks, inspections, codes, libraries, grants. And next in line is streets.
Yes.
We'll get started there.
Thank you.
Okay, streets is on page 53. There are a few oversights I do want to mention really quick. On the salaries, instead of 348,000, that should be 438,000. I think I may have transposed the 3 and the 4. So if you change that, the salaries would be more in line with previous years. Also, on the office supplies, I believe for proposed it should be $200, not $2. I apologize for that one. Street repair maintenance supplies, I did want to mention that a decrease, that we will be using or working a lot on the ARPA projects. We do have a deadline to use up that money, so next year we will be working a lot with the ARPA money.
What's that deadline?
We have to have it allocated by next December, and then we have to spend it the following December.
Okay,
So we're just trying to make sure we meet those deadlines.
okay.
And then, I believe that's it, unless you have any additional questions.
Council, yeah.
I'd just like to point out one thing. So, what Vanessa mentioned, you know, there was a typo here on the 348, and then on the office supplies, it showed up as 200. There's a lot of things that finance does to create a budget like this that's very transparent, that's very open, that's line item. So not all of it just push of a button. And when anybody in finance and HR and other places, clerk's office, when we try to see what some other cities are doing or other entities, their budgets aren't as
Detailed.
detailed as ours. And so a lot of work goes into just line item this. If we were just to print out from our software, it would be, you know, probably less than half of what this is. So there is a lot of work that they do that's still manual, even with our very good Tyler Technology software, still manual to enter some things in. So just wanted to point that out, why there will be sometimes a few things like this.
I'll just tell you, I appreciate the transparency because it makes it a lot easier for us to see how things are allocated or spent, so it helps, and I appreciate that. Council, any questions? Mr.
I guess the only obvious one that I see is the street repair maintenance.
And that's because we're using the funds from ARP. Those funds are there. So it's not, we're not saying we're not gonna do street repairs, we're just using a different fund. We're not paying it out of the general fund.
Okay.
Mr. Molina?
Yeah, cut it back 80 grand. It's awesome. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen? That was it, right? I'm
When I
sorry.
stop talking.
Gee, I was.
What was in that sandwich?
Subway sandwich. It was the churro.
It comes with jalapeno.
Oh, the jalapeno.
Spicy.
Sorry, I'm sleepy.
I'm less spicy.
I'm good.
Okay, well, we'll look at the street maintenance and all that when we review the ARPA stuff, right? I mean, that fund or?
No, it doesn't have a
It's not
fund
a-
of its own.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not, okay.
No. Like if you go back to where Vanessa started with our revenue on page, what was it, 8, where we allocated the 350 that we showed that as revenue coming in, that's basically where we're reducing these
Oh,
expenses,
okay,
because we're
that's where
basically
it's- okay.
using those.
I knew that. It's just like, I just didn't remember. Okay, all right, we're good. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Garza?
You all explained the street repair maintenance supplies. On a couple lines down, catering meals. Not that I'm really complaining, but you jumped from 250 to 1,000?
That was to start helping with the water and.
We were paying that out of emergency management, but that's no longer, we're doing it by department. So each department's taking care of their own, and so that's to cover, those guys are out there in the 120
Right.
degrees. So it's mainly to do that.
Okay, good.
So this is for this department. Did we do that to all departments?
Those that, yeah, if you go to like sanitation, you go to parks, who else would have it? Water plant, like those
Maintenance
that
and
are working
construction.
outside.
The ones that are outside all day, you
All
know,
day.
it is very hot, and it's to get them some of the little.
They'll get them I forget what you call them, like the
pops.
popsicles, like the Pedialyte kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
They'll get them hydrated, waters, things of that nature, they're cool.
So is our fire department still storing water for us?
No,
'Cause I know
they're,
were.
basically, they're taking it on for themselves. Like fire has it, but it's for themselves. Now sanitation, I believe, Robert, if he's here, he gets his pot, it's for his department and so forth. So
Okay.
everyone's kind of, we're kind of allocating, that way everyone knows what they're spending, and
Oh, I see what
that
you,
way they have it.
okay. Okay, thank you, thank you.
On GPS monitoring, we went from 400 to 0.
I think that's something we're working on, because I don't believe all units had it, they weren't installed, and I believe some of the departments,
I
Joe's
think
not
the
here to
PD
speak to.
too, we took that off.
They weren't using them, so we're kind of, that's another one of the citywide items that we're reviewing and trying to clean up.
That's fine. And this may fall under where street repairs and maintenance is, but correct me if I'm wrong, under paving system improvements, you went from a budget of 10,000 to 0.
We're gonna factor that same thing. If we're gonna do a project, it's gonna take care of everything.
Perfect. Then I've got no other questions. Thank you.
Okay, no other questions?
Oh, man.
So the street repair and maintenance, past few years were about 28, 25, and now we're at 60. So it's a good thing. What does that entail?
There's ARPA
The
funds,
services,
right?
I think that's like the.
Services?
Yeah,
Purchase.
that's like the concrete repair,
When we get
maintenance
the-
and construction, they tear up to do the repair and then they come back, I think.
I don't believe we have staffing to do that, so we do
We have to,
outsource.
so when we have to break concrete and do some repairs and do even on street work, or, we contract that out, and usually we wait till we have about 3 or 4 or 5 things to do.
I want.
And a lot of times, yeah, there's a water line we gotta fix, or, we just did one on Josephine, I just saw, last week, part of a bigger project. So what, our maintenance construction superintendent will do is wait till there's 4 or 5 and then get with a contractor and send them out to do the concrete work. And that's what a lot of that is concrete repairs.
That's what I was trying to say, is we're anticipating on fixing more stuff, putting more money into it. It's great. Thank you.
You were asking about the capital outlay? Is that?
No,
No, right
it's,
there on purchase property where it's street repair maintenance, the 60,000. What is it, the 5th from the bottom,
Oh, okay.
or 6th?
I see, okay. Because it had gone up. Okay. Any other questions, council? Okay.
Okay, next we have the garage department. This one, we do have some retirement, so you will see a decrease in the salaries. We are also looking into, like Mr. Esparza had mentioned, the enterprise. So we will be looking to add some money into professional services once we get final costs and ideas about which route we're going to take.
On page 56, we're looking at it, we have, VINs are probably 300, a little over 300 pieces of equipment, vehicles or equipment with VINs. And we figured it was gonna be around 23,000 for that enterprise to manage that, $6 per VIN. So we're gonna be updating that once we finalize and bring something to you guys to look at. And when do we anticipate that coming?
I believe we have a follow-up meeting this week.
Yeah,
Tomorrow. Tomorrow.
Okay.
Council, any questions? Mr. Beltran?
No, all good.
Mr. Medina?
Looks good. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, I'm okay right now.
Mr. Garza?
The only question I have is for the professional services. Where we went from 22,000 to 1,000.
Yeah, and that'll go back up.
That would go back up once we have a
Once we have-
true number.
Okay.
Any other questions, council? On this particular one?
Good, thank you.
Okay.
Next, we have the engineering department. This one you will see an increase. This is salaries, and this was for one employee who's now the city engineer, so there was an increase for that. And
You okay? Thank you. Thank you, Nellie.
there were some other minor, sorry, should I wait?
As long as he, yeah. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
There were some other slight increases, but those were for some software for the city engineer so that he can be doing different projects for the city. Let me see what else. But that's about it. The rest is pretty much in line with prior years.
Drink one down the wrong pipe.
Oh.
Michael, who's the engineer? What do we have?
Waylon.
Okay. I want to make sure.
And the inspector, who's the inspector?
Lucas. And we used to have an engineering tech 3, and Waylon, the city engineer, has taken over those duties in that position.
And also what is it?
Oh, and also that also includes, so we have to have our floodplain manager, and that takes some work to get certified. He's going to get certified on that. For the past 5 years, the technical floodplain manager has been me, dealing with anything that happens with Texas Flood Association or organization. But Waylon's agreed to take that role on too, as the floodplain manager as well.
So is there a cost for that training
It's-
that's in here? Or is it something?
Yeah, a lot of it is just, go ahead, Waylon.
For the TFA, the Texas Floodplain Association, there is a yearly maintenance to be a member of their website, and then there is also a training that you have to do for qualifications. I don't know the exact number on the training. I believe it's probably I think it's $125, and yearly maintenance is less than $100. I believe it's either $85 or $65.
Okay. So this training, is it one of those that you have to yearly do or like to?
No, ma'am, it's a certification test, and then once you have your license, there is continuing education
Yeah,
hours
the
that come along with
continuing
that.
education,
But
yeah.
it's just the certification test initially.
Okay. Okay. Well, good luck on it.
Thank you.
Michael,
Right.
can you elaborate on the, I mean, inject, but the, you said something about the flood. So,
Yeah, so we have to have a floodplain manager, and that's a requirement. And when I came in, there was not a floodplain manager, so by default, I was the floodplain manager, just like the airport manager as well. And so the representative from the association made 2 regular meetings up here when she was going down the valley. She's in the valley when she was coming up towards San Antonio. So we worked all that, and then once we got Waylon in, we were like, well, that's a perfect fit for the floodplain manager duties and the certifications, because I was going to try to get certified, but it does take some time. You can do online testing, you got to do a practice, a study, and all those things.
Yes.
And so Waylon agreed to get it done. And so right now, he is our designated floodplain manager, and we included that in his salary. And I do want to say that before we were paying somebody to be an engineering tech, and Wayland absorbed those duties. We don't have that cost of an extra person now. And among the other things that he does, he's also, I don't know if you know his background, but his background is a lot of utility work, streets and water
Came
lines.
in one day and he was full of tar and.
Yeah, so what we have him doing also is he can actually help train people on streets on every one of those pieces of equipment, because he's been doing that, and I don't know how old he is, but it's probably since he was 5, doing those kind of things. So he touches every department, and it's usually what's nice about finding and getting an engineer, somebody that has a practical experience and then got the book experience as well, because he knows how it all works. And we spend a lot of time together. Wayland's on the second floor every day, twice a day, 3 times a day, so a lot of things going on, and we're really glad that he's with us.
Absolutely, we're very fortunate. Yeah, Michael had told me, and he's like, this is our engineer. He was the dirtiest engineer I'd ever seen.
Laying and talking.
But, so explain to me, what is the duties of the, or what we would do once we get certified?
On the flood,
flood, yeah.
well, and Wayland can probably, I'll give a little bit of it and he can continue on, but one of it is working on our floodplain permits, if we allow them or we don't, making sure we have the ordinances in place or permitting in place for those kind of things, also work on drainage, and anything to do with flooding that we're required to do. So right now, we're updating our permitting process to include, so initially, for just clarification for them, do we allow somebody to build in the floodplain in town? And the answer is no, until we get something done for requirements. We want to be, a foot over base flood elevation, a foot over the zone, whatever it's going to be. We need to come up with that so we can send it to the state so they can know, here's what you have. And so there may be some other things that Wayland would want to touch on.
Yes, sir. The main function of the floodplain manager is to ensure that we're compliant with FEMA and federal mandates to make sure that they grant us a reduction in insurance costs depending on how compliant we are, and as long as we remain in compliance, we're part of the federal floodplain insurance program. And with that, that comes along with the CCFR. I believe it's 440, and that's the requirement book, about 600 pages long. That's what the certification exam is over, to ensure that when we do allow for development in the floodplain, that it is compliant and we don't alter the course of drainage in any way that could cause damage to other people in the area. And we just monitor the FEMA maps, all of the firms that they have sent out, to make sure that nobody's building in the floodplain, and if they are, they go through the proper channels, so that way we don't raise the flood elevation any more than what it is already.
So you mentioned that you would save money for everybody.
Yes, sir. The federal flood insurance program, what it does is, because we're compliant with that, the insurance rates for flood protection are lowered, because we can prove that we're compliant with all these with all the mandates. All the mandates come with is to ensure that any structures built in the floodplain or next to the floodplain, they're flood proofed. They can withstand any kind of thrusting against any kind of floodwaters. And here and there, it also correlates to wind protection, hurricane protection, and to make sure that anything that's at risk is built to withstand whatever risk is there.
Sounds good, Robert. Your insurance. Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Michael, for that. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Keep up the good work.
Welcome on board. Okay, council, any other questions in reference to this department? No? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayland.
Okay.
Okay, next we have parks. You will see an increase on this department. We did have one position, a recreation superintendent. I believe half of the salary was in library and half in parks, so we moved the full salary to parks. We also moved some temps to this department from the codes department.
That's what I was wondering.
Mhm.
So that's what you did.
It's just a
Okay.
move from that department to this department.
What was the kind of logic, or what was?
So that
I'm sorry.
Yeah, what we, right now, the temp workers that take care of the weedy lots and all those are under codes, and so if they get caught up or they're not busy, they find other things to do, and it kind of worked out here where, and we talked about it with our parks director, to take those on, and we work on a work order system, so our weedy lots are still gonna take care of, because they're doing the work orders right now, and they're giving them to the temporary help, but they're gonna be under the control of the parks director, so if there's ever a time that we need to do something different with them, we can, makes it easier for us to grab everybody as a whole and say, let's go work on this project, or let's finish up, or we got behind because of a lot of rains. And so, we felt it'd be easier and more efficient to have them under one umbrella, since they all doing the same type of work. And then relieve the codes department from having that extra hassle of managing those folks.
Okay. I'm sorry.
But yeah, you'll see the decrease in codes, and the increase in here.
We actually, we moved them to the codes at one time. And the reason behind that was because the weed lots, those lots weren't getting taken care of. So,
Well, and we also did, I don't think, we didn't have as many at the time, but now we have a pretty good amount, but we didn't have the work order system that we had back then either, correct? When we first did that? This work order system is new? No. Oh, we've had it, it was still back then? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, because I remember that
yeah, I don't know if that's a good move or not.
And I think, if
What do you
memory
think?
serves me correct, the reason why they had originally moved it is because the parks was always so busy with the parks cutting grass and stuff like that, that they never had the time to send them out to cut the grass at the yards.
Take care of the other ones.
So the complaints would go on, and it would seem like we weren't doing anything.
I don't know.
And you say that we've got temp workers cutting,
They're contract labor.
why don't we just hire our own guys?
Because I think originally, when we were looking at this budgeted
Seasonal.
item, it was supposed to be seasonal.
Gonna be seasonal.
It was gonna be, okay, the rainy season, let's get some temp workers in there, we don't have to carry them throughout the year. But then it turned into, well, we're gonna do it year round.
Because we had plenty of work for them, right?
Because there is a lot of work, yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we could do this kind of a little bit like we do with maintenance and construction. We do hire temps, and if some are working out pretty well, then we transition them to be an employee. So we could look at this as well. If we need to fill those, and the ones that are working out pretty well, we can ask them to come on in and open up a position and transition that. It's a good way to test somebody out, too.
Okay, well, my concern is that the codes department, that they have somebody dedicated to taking care of those violations, Patrick, how many do you have? I mean, is it something that's being utilized a lot, or?
As of yesterday, we're about 40 behind. 30, well, we did 10, so we're 30 behind right now. We do about 10 a day, is how many yards we're doing with the staff that we have. It just depends on the season. It is seasonal. Sometimes I'll have 2, sometimes I'll have 4. Right now, we just went through a real big rainy season, so we're up to 4 right now. We're about to lose 2 of them, so hopefully we'll be caught up by the time those 2 are ready to move on. They're like college-age kids, so they're going back to school. So we stay busy. There's almost never a time when there's not yards that need to be cut.
We're talking about two different things though, right? Here. Code
Yes.
still will have some,
No,
They won't
no,
at
their
all.
crew is
Okay.
basically gonna be based out
they'll
of
just be moved.
parks. right.
Okay.
They're still code enforcement, I guess you would say, they're still the code enforcement crew,
Okay.
but they would just be under the guidance with the park director.
But recently, it's been unseasonably rain, like, this is,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
this is the greenest July we've had in years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know at the ranch, we're usually buying hay and stuff, now it's like
there's a lot of,
When it's hurricane
12 inches
season,
of-
it should be pretty active.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's, it does slow down when you get to November, December, January. Right now, it is heavy.
I just want to make sure that codes has
Well,
somebody.
Yeah, that
And it
wouldn't
works.
change.
That it works. There's a system that works together.
well, we have someone that, correct, Mr.
Just Mr. Chapa.
Chapa?
10 yards a day is a lot.
You wanna,
That's really good.
We've got it down to a pretty good size.
That's very good.
so Mr.
Considering-
Esparza, you have them both working, like
And safe.
Yeah, I mean,
communicating with however you structured it.
So these are still, I mean, that's, their job is still gonna be to
Right.
do
Yeah.
what codes sends them on a work order.
Okay.
That's not gonna change.
It's not
That
gonna
would be
change.
their priority. That's their number one focus. If
And their
if they're down,
expense, the expense comes out of where? Their,
It'll come out of code.
out of code still?
What do you mean?
I'm not-
No,
well-
it wouldn't show up under codes anymore. It's gonna show up under parks.
That's why I'm wondering, it's gonna show up?
Yeah, it's gonna show up under parks. That's why that temporary 60,000's there.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
I think it makes good sense to have it that way, Mike.
Yeah.
Okay.
And also, there's sometimes, I mean, the equipment that sometimes
Exactly, that's
codes
why.
guys are gonna need. Here, he has some different equipment that it's like, okay, they're in one department. Not that the communication is better to keep that portion of it. You know, all Miguel needs is the work order.
Okay.
And then it's gonna get done, and then he can decide, okay, yeah, this
Dispatch.
is different. You know, maybe we'll send these guys with this equipment. And right now, they're very removed because they're in different departments.
Okay.
See what you mean, okay.
And once they receive the work order, normally how long does it take to?
For us, it's pretty quick. Right now, we're a little bit behind because of the rainy season, but it's usually within a week, we're getting it. Before, when it was with codes, when it was with parks, it was probably 30, 40 days.
That's a big difference.
But there wasn't temps, I mean, when it was with parks, it was our crews doing it, yeah. Now, the temps are still there.
The dedicated crew.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Sorry, I didn't.
Good idea.
I guess another point to just carry on to this, it will change budget because we moved the temp, but we didn't move the equipment repairs, the supplies, because we wanted to bring it to you first. And before we move it, so you'll see some equipment repair and such in codes that still has to be moved over.
The parks,
Sure, right.
okay,
So just keep that in mind. That way, the main part we put was the temp salaries.
okay, thank you.
Just,
So it is getting moved, basically.
it'll move it over here, correct?
Mr. Beltran, you have any questions in reference to this department?
No, everything looks great. Keep it up.
Same, thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
That's it, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
Well, I guess as long as we're still doing our obligations with the cutting the kids, the codes and all that.
I know on the, I wanted to ask you, because I know I've brought this up before about, is there something incorporated, like, when we're doing some of the sidewalks and stuff, that's more streets than this department, but because there's overgrowth and we're not doing the spraying sometimes of the, what is it called?
On the weed killer,
Like weed killer?
weed killer,
Herbicide?
yeah.
Weed spraying.
That's what we have, this man over
So
here.
Yeah.
we're doing some of that, and we have done some in certain areas. We did go downtown and
Yeah,
So we're weed spraying the areas that basically belong to the parks, drain ditches, culverts, street signs, fence lines around the ballparks, and that's all visual. You can see it if you drive around. You'll see brown spot, yellow spot, stuff like that. The sidewalks have been brought up a lot. I've talked a little bit to Demetri about that. We're willing to train whoever needs to be trained, like the way we trained Nick to do some of that work. So, of course, there's a little bit more expense with weed killer. We do it out of a buggy because we have one that we share with the boss crew. So they would need a little bit of equipment to maybe ride down, up and down the sidewalks through the major thoroughfares or stuff
what
like
is that? What kind of equipment or what are you looking
So,
at?
a sprayer,
Uh-huh.
an 12-volt sprayer possibly, and a little buggy to maybe do it as opposed to doing it out of a truck.
Like a golf cart or something like that?
Yes, yeah, just something to do it out of, as opposed to, walking or something. You could.
Does that would save on time, labor, or?
It would.
Probably both.
Both, and
Both.
it would make it look nicer, but, we'd have to incorporate, the street department because that's their areas. It would affect their budget a little bit, stuff like that, so, we get direction from city manager, we could all talk about that, but, That's why the Parks Department doesn't do it at this time. We kind of do our areas.
So a buggy would allow you to get it to places a lot easier versus a pickup truck, and
A lot quicker.
you can get in and out of.
Again, we do our areas really quickly with a buggy.
Right.
So
That's what
could
I'm
you do
saying.
those areas quickly with a buggy?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. You know, slow moving sign behind it, maybe
does that cost
a little
a lot?
light on the
No,
top.
that's the one you've been working with us about getting quotes, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah, he's submitted some quotes, he's working on it, and we should have that before the end of the year.
Oh, I was just curious
But I'm
what that
answering your
cost.
question regarding the sidewalks, correct?
Correct.
Yes, right.
yes. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah, he's already worked on quotes and everything, so we should be getting that.
And the only reason I bring it up, because I know we're doing a very conservative
Right.
budget, but I also know that in the long run, you know,
Right.
if we maintain our sidewalks and the overgrowth that leads to longevity of
Yeah.
life of the sidewalks, we're not, you know, where they could crack.
No,
or-
Yolanda did a great job, and they had some savings within the year, so I
Uh-huh.
think we're gonna be able to make it happen.
Okay, just something for us to think or consider. And
We're also looking at, and we did a test run on spraying on the top bank of some of the creeks.
Yes, sir.
Trying to
Oh.
kill some of the grass around there. It's not gonna kill it completely, but, you know, as it grows and our mowers will run over some things that people will dump. And here, you know, we're, the top portion, we can keep it cleaner and mow less. We're working on that project right now, try to see which ones we need to do, what areas we can do to have to pass through there less with our equipment. And so we're working on that to try to make it more efficient.
We're down one piece of equipment right now, or we got that repaired?
So we have what's called a side boom that kind of just think of it as an arm that will cut
That
the
mo-
edges of where you can't get in with a mower. And it's an older piece of equipment, so it's very sensitive. It's broken down, we fix it, like Mike said, you'll hit something that you don't see in that ditch that people will throw a tire, a piece of concrete, just the illegal dumping, and the grass has grown a lot because it's rained a lot, like we've talked about. So it gets damaged and stuff is growing. So yes, we incorporated spraying some weed killer that's labeled to spray in those areas to keep it down, because, you know, the residents will still bring it to our attention that, hey, that stuff is high,
Yeah.
rodents, bees, looks bad. So we sprayed it with knock it down a little bit, so.
I'm just curious, what kind of chemicals are you using to
So-
control these weeds?
So every herbicide has a label that's, you know, that we follow to the T. So we use a product called Aquatic Roundup. So Aquatic Roundup is for those aquatic areas. So they're labels for those areas.
Gotcha.
And I did share a little bit of information with the city manager, highlighting where it does allow us to go into those areas with them.
And you know, this equipment that you're talking about, that's what I was talking about, a list of needs, you know, capital improvement needs or any of those needs. Make sure we get them notified or know about them.
So I'll appreciate it.
Thank you.
Council, any questions or anything else? Mr. Molina, you're
No, I'm good, thank you.
going anything else? Mr. Garza?
Very good.
Okay. Are you gonna go to the next one, or?
Yes, next we have the neighborhood facility, which is the Old Boys and Girls Club. This only has electricity, and then we put in a little bit of money for any facility repairs, supplies, or services.
Okay. Council, any questions in reference to this?
I'm good.
Mr. Beltran?
Yeah, no, I'm good, thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
No, we're good. Thank you.
Mr. Garza?
We've got people that are out there cutting the grass and stuff like that, correct?
Sorry?
We've got people going out to,
Is it on y'all's route?
We mow it, are you asking if we're weed spraying any of it?
well, I was just curious, who was the one taking care of the maintenance out there with yards?
Yes, sir.
You do.
It's our asset, yeah.
Y'all are doing a great job out there. The only thing I would ask is is there a chance to clean out the gutters out there? I've noticed, I live close to the area, and there's trees growing out of the gutters. Okay. So we can clean that out just to prevent any roof damage or
On the
anything like
building?
that. The old Boys and Girls Club down, heading towards Ben Bolt. There's a bunch of kids still go out there and play on the basketball court and stuff like that, and. well, I was
Practice
just-
and everything.
Yeah. That was one of the things I noticed, is some of the oak trees that, you know, how they're real close to the building, looked like they were starting to grow out of the
I know.
gutters.
We talked about lighting out there. Did we ever put some lighting out there or have?
There's like 6 lights, 4 in the parking lot on the north side and 2 over there by the basketball court. But on the court itself, there's no lights.
There's no
It's
lights?
in the parking lot.
Oh, okay, because that's, I know the kids play out there. I see them a lot. Okay.
And do we have any plans for it, or are we gonna do something with it, sell it, or?
Mike Gannon, I think I remember.
Yeah, I mean, and so when, we're gonna talk about that once we get to the hot funds. And if there's anything we wanna do out there or not wanna do out there, we can, that time determine, you know, whether we wanna keep it or try to sell it or do something like that.
Okay, thank you.
Next, we have the inspection department. This one, there's a few increases. We increased for professional services. This is for the
Inspection.
inspector outside.
Inspector and
And,
plumbing.
which is Bureau Veritas.
Really,
Council, any questions?
I'm good.
I'm good, thank you.
Mrs. Bull? Mr. Garza?
No question.
The only thing I always ask is if we're kind of looking at the services we're paying for and versus what when we used to have in-house, those type of things. But the other thing, when we did have that task force, they were happy and pleased with the inspections. And the one thing that we had said was the delay on the plumbing inspections. So I don't know if there's something we could do with that or.
Just yesterday, I was working on that, trying to find either 1 or 2 plumbers master plumbers that want to be on contract, similar, because it takes a while. We're outsourcing that to Bureau Veritas, and sometimes it takes a while to get those done. The building, the electrical is quick, but that's where we're slow.
They were very happy. I mean, developers were happy, whoever was doing. It was just that one item that they felt took a little longer. Okay. Okay, thank you.
Next, we have codes and I think the biggest decrease would be the temps.
And that was one of the questions I was gonna have, but y'all explained it already, so.
Yes.
Council, any questions, Mr.
I'm good.
Beltran?
Thank you.
Mr. Molina?
No, it looks good, thank you.
Mrs. Bowman?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
No, I can't see anything right now. Thank you.
We have,
I
go
wanted-
ahead. No, no,
yeah,
go ahead.
no, I wanted just to ask, Mr. Esparza, if, in the codes department, I know sometimes, I don't know if we have, you see, anything allocated, like, because I know education's a big part of, for the public, because the alleys, the trash that gets left on the curbside, those type of things, I don't know. We talked in the past about putting an insert in the water bill, like, did you know you're responsible for your alley, or, you know, those type of things, or don't mix the brush with furniture and all kinds, because then it makes it difficult to pick those things up. I don't know if we could do something like that, a little campaign to just educate our citizens. I know it gets cumbersome and then when we don't have the equipment or we don't have, it makes it difficult. But
Aren't there some free programs that we can pull up online or something for stuff like that?
And periodically, we've done a few of those.
Put on our website.
Depending on what, what the problems are. So Codes does go and leave flyers sometimes. I know our maintenance and construction, we had a campaign on, the wet wipes were causing a lot of clogs in the
Yeah, I
sewer
remember
line.
that.
We did the wet wipes cause, clogged pipes,
yes.
campaign. So periodically, when we find something that's happening, we will do that. Patrick, you have?
So that is a big need. We find ourselves in code, we find ourselves kind of spinning in circles, tackling the same violations over and over again. And a lot of it comes to just our culture and our community, what we're used to. And so educating our community is a real big part of code enforcement, and it's a part that we're not doing a really good job of right now. So yes, to answer Ms. Bowen's question, there are some grants out there. We have been applying, but we haven't, received anything. The one we did get was the tire roundup grant. We're hoping to get that one again this year, but it's very limited on what we can apply for. But yeah, it is a need. Community education is a big part of code enforcement.
does agriculture have any kind of grants with Mr. Sid Miller? He was here recently and he said there's lots of money in for us to try and see what, I don't know if it would tie in or not with environmental or, I don't know.
We can explore that.
He said there was lots, of opportunities there. The other thing that I'm just kind of curious, is there like some kind of a disconnect or what, there's something I just haven't been able to pinpoint. I think education's one of them, and I think flyers they're not very costly. I don't know what the effort would be to place them in a water bill or, and it can't be so cumbersome because when people open it up, they're not gonna read it, something that would catch their eye real quick and just a quick something, but.
So flyers are useful in some instances, and then there's some instances where they become more of a burden. We're talking about not polluting, and then we go and see our flyers all over the park, on the floor. So there's times where a flyer might work really well, and there's times where it's something else that needs to be.
But I'm talking about more an insert in the water bill, because
Right.
if, not putting it on a doorknob or a mailbox or, well, we can't do mailbox, but, so that's more controlled where they'd be within their household or something, but I don't know, Mr. Esparza. if there's
I do
something
agree with
we
you.
could
There is
think
some
of.
things that we need to look at.
They come up with a better plan for that.
And is there like communication that has to happen between maybe solid waste and codes and what, I mean, I don't know,
As
like everyone
far
together?
as-
Like with all the piles, the brush, the different things?
So the delay in that, and Mr. Guetta, he's still here, he can kind of elaborate more on it. The delay on that is we're getting the complaints, we're submitting the work orders, it's just his equipment is what
He's had
restricts him
major
from being able
challenges.
to get to the, so I can tell you right now, I got a meeting later today to talk about, we've got school, going back to school, the traffic is gonna increase around the schools. So what we've done is we've gone and we're doing a couple blocks radius around all the schools to try to kind of tackle those before everybody starts going back. And so he's got a list that he's gonna try to work through to, hopefully get that done before school starts, but.
I want to tell you thank you, because I know how hard it's been on your department and the employees, and I've seen how they were having to pick up commercial trash.
Yeah.
The dumpsters, and that was a creative, but it was also cumbersome and expensive, and so.
Whenever we do something, we do something else. We're
So.
trying to catch up now.
Okay.
It's also an extra, the brush pickup stuff, and city manager and I have had this conversation before in the past as well. It's an there's not a dedicated crew that's just doing it. When they're not doing something else, they'll go and try to keep up with that. And so there is a delay in that, and that is a problem, but
Yeah.
we're doing the best that we can with what he's got.
All right, I was just, if we can think of something creative and maybe some of the grants or something.
Yeah, and we'll continue, and we did ask for a little bit of community relations to be able to get a little bit more involved in the community, get that education going. we want to see a higher presence in different events in the community, because that's an important part of code enforcement.
Okay, I appreciate it, thank you. Any other questions or any comments or anything?
I'm good. It just seems like we're all doing more with less.
With less, correct.
And we just want to always thank our staff and everybody, because
Oh, yeah.
it's, just continually doing more with less, and it doesn't stop. And
I rode in one of the trucks and, I appreciate our employees for, because, that person that I drove with wasn't complaining at all. They were appreciative we make do with what we have, ma'am, and AC wasn't working properly, but he never stapled the headliner. I mean, I don't know, I can't tell you how appreciative I am for what y'all work with. I really thank y'all. Okay. All right, sorry. Go ahead. Okay, I'm sorry.
Next, we have the library department. You will see a decrease in the salaries. Again, there was a position that we moved, from the library to the Parks Department. And there was another position that we will have a retirement, so we will not be filling the position.
Okay, council, any questions in reference to this?
I'm good.
Mr. Molina?
We're on page 70, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Did you mention anything about the internet? I'm just curious.
We actually talked about that this morning.
So, yeah, that's the full, we get a government E-rate, and that's the full cost for that internet connection to the library, and it's a high-speed, high-bandwidth connection. And so that's not that won't be our cost, but we plug that in because until we get that E-rate, we're going to leave that full dollar amount in there. So it'll end up being close to the $2,000 or less than $2,000 a year for that. But that is our main government rate E-connection, or E-rate.
Can I get a password? Appreciate it. Thank you.
Mrs. Bowen?
Okay, we still have computers there at the library, right? We still have computers, do we still have the same amount, or still the same amount of computers? They're all functioning okay?
Yes, they're fairly new. We had a grant from HEB a couple of years back, maybe right before the pandemic. So they're all they're in good working condition.
HEB computers?
HEB computers?
That's good. Awesome.
Thank you, HEB.
So how many are there, Yole?
There's 8, is there 10?
Okay, cool.
The old cameras.
Hmm?
The old cameras.
Okay. The lights. I think that's it.
Okay,
Yeah, working.
okay. Mr. Graves?
No questions.
How big is the library, the square footage? Just thinking,
Like
Mm-hmm.
5 to 600 square feet,
What is it?
about 5 to 600 square feet.
Oh, you said 500, 600. I was like, no, it's bigger than
did you
that.
say 100?
5,000 square
You
feet.
said 100.
Yeah.
I was like,
Wait, what?
Like full
and
city
it's
block.
that? Yeah.
Probably bigger than
I
that,
think it's bigger than 6,000 square feet.
at least, yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you add the rooms that are,
What are the outer dimensions? 80 by 70 by 70, something like that?
Pretty big. I mean,
nice building.
80 by
That's quite a bit.
big.
that's what I'm looking at.
Oh, the electricity costs?
Yeah.
It's a little over
It's so
$1,000,
big.
But I mean, you know, relatively speaking, it's not, for building that size, it's high ceilings.
But y'all are looking into something with the
Uh-huh.
county as well, so we'll
Oh,
wait.
oh, okay.
Right?
Yeah, we're talking to the county about the library expenses too. It's
Yeah.
you know, there was an old agreement, Operation Cooperation, that they were gonna cover 45% of the expenses, and then there was at a time, they were funding 50,000, and I think there was a misunderstanding. But that 50,000 was for, because if you guys remember, we were paying for the librarian in Fremont.
Yes,
And then we didn't fill that position.
yes.
We're not Fremont. Then they stopped paying that 50,000. So, we had the discussion about that also
Okay.
last week, yeah.
Well, thank you all for doing that. Okay, that's it, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
No, ma'am, no question.
No? There was something, was there a grant we would apply for every year, like a 20-something to,
For the books?
and is it in here? I couldn't find it.
We can apply for it every second year.
Oh, every other year,
It was
okay.
for the books, right?
Got, a grant for $10,000 with the Times newspaper.
Okay.
It's online.
Okay,
Ready?
all right, I was curious, so it's every other year, okay.
Y'all did a program as well where people were donating online, remember? Did we do that again, or?
That was just something under the
Oh, okay.
that fund to use the new sign.
Is that what that's so cool. Thank you for doing that.
That went toward our sign?
It looks nice.
Oh, okay.
But there was other funds used from, that we had in the book for library, something or the other, it wasn't part of the budget. It was
Right.
another,
That's what I understood, yes.
so none of that sign is in the budget.
Well, whoever designed it, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
Did really good. Thank you.
Looks good, thank
Very
you.
Thank you,
nice.
Michael, for making
Yeah.
sure that happened.
It took a while, but it got done. Thank you, Lonnie, for you followed up a lot on that to make sure it happened. Yeah.
Awesome.
I know, I kept saying, it says coming soon. Create that I was like, when is it? That's cool. Thank you for doing that.
And the holdup on us.
Huh?
The holdup was not us.
Always us.
Yeah, it was,
You get blamed for it.
yeah.
What is the grant program supplies? What is that line item for?
So that's what we use for the summer, program, and we traditionally get a grant from the Coastal Bend Communities Foundation.
Uh-huh.
So they budget that amount into the budget, but when we get the money in, it goes into the general fund. Because we're pulling from the general.
Yeah, so
We
you'll
put
see the
zero?
revenue on the revenue, from the grant on the revenue side, and then you see the
Okay.
expense on there.
Okay. And the Friends of the Library, is that something that's still ongoing or?
It's not very active.
No, okay. All right, that's all. Thank you. You all have anything else?
No good. Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
Next, we have grant and administration. This department had no big changes. Nothing really.
Council, any questions in reference to this? Into this department?
So we have an advertising,
Yeah,
Budget.
that's when they have to.
That's when we
place
submit for bids.
that's good.
Publicly, yeah.
No, we're good. Thank you.
Mr. Molina?
Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Mr. Garza?
Forgive me for how elementary this question may sound, but we've got scheduled here for one grant writer. That would be
Barbara.
Barbara,
Yes, sir.
correct. So then, like one of my first council meetings, we were either hiring or doing something with an Humberto Garza that was dealing with grants also. What is that? How is, you know, it's,
Yeah, well, I mean, we contracted with them at no fee, just on if they find something, that we pay them to manage it. And we're actually looking at other people right now, and we're also looking at whether it'd be worth getting a paid grant writing company, with maybe a stipend every month, as long as they're producing something. We're toying with that idea, so we're gonna get an RFQ out for you guys to consider pretty soon on maybe making some changes. So yeah, but that's not costing us anything. It was just an agreement to try to utilize them for some grants.
And out of this grant department area that we have here, how much in grants would you say that we received last year?
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's the bulk of
There's
it.
a lot.
There's a lot of,
Oh, yeah.
so it's, okay,
Oh, yeah.
good, then don't worry about that then. All righty, then I'm done, I'm good.
So she not only searches for grants, she does the continued
Right, they're-
process of the collection.
They don't end
document,
when you receive the grant.
Right, just continued work. I mean, lots of work. I know I used to do it. It's a lot of work.
She's doing the compliance. and
Yes.
Along with.
Right.
Right.
She works with all the departments, finance, we work hand in hand. I mean, there's a lot that goes behind to sustain those grants.
Her role's more of a grant compliance.
Right,
Yes.
right.
For that
Yeah,
writer.
that's very
I
true.
think that throws it
Right.
off, where it says writer, you know,
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
but there's a lot.
Very important asset to us, I think.
Now, if this department's doing so good for us, would it justify maybe even probably getting a grant writer involved with it, or are we just at where we're at?
That's what Mr.
Yeah, that's
Scott
what we're
says.
looking at, because we did fund another position a couple of budgets just back, and it was just hard to find somebody that could come in and do that. And we had I think we ran through a couple of people to try to be an additional grant writer, somebody to be in our grant writing department to learn what we do, because there's a lot of things that we do regularly, especially with police and fire, and that they touch with their staff, and also our grants department keeps that, kind of is the hub to submit and to do all those. So, yeah, you know, so that department pays for itself and then times a certain amount, right? So, yeah, that is a good idea, and we will see if there's a need to bring somebody else in or hire out with that money.
Sounds great, thank you.
I kind of feel like right now, since we're trying to be very conservative, I think that the other plan, maybe we're finding a company that would not, would look for those things for us. All right.
That gets us through the general fund. And wow, looks like we were timed at just what I was thinking.
Well.
Yeah, we were talking about 1:30.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, a couple of days ago. So, if y'all want to stop there and then our next meeting, we can continue with, all the other funds. The general fund, of course, is the largest fund with, most departments, and that's why it does take a while. And, next meeting, we'll have solid waste, utility, airport, the golf course, multi-use, debt service, hotel occupancy, and capital improvement.
Okay.
Okay?
I'm good. Yeah, okay.
You know, Michael. I know,
Upgrade.
Patrick. Where's Patrick?
Yeah.
No, look like each other.
I know back in the day, we were receiving a list of all the grants that are ongoing and what their status was. I haven't seen that in a while.
We can get them.
It's in our, mini codes and stuff, you can look it up too, right?
Yeah.
You'll
I'd
have
like
it.
a hard copy if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
And this is gonna sound stupid, but under the public health codes, do you think we could change that number out? Instead of having 666?
For help?
I said the same thing when they gave me that department.
Yeah, our next, yeah, I was just asking if everyone's good. We're good, so then we'll move on to our agenda, our next agenda, which is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn? Second. We have a first and a second. First and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So meeting is adjourned. It's 1:33 PM. Thank you.
Next Tuesday.